Chapter 3076. Seeing that He Qianqi was about to be mercilessly suppressed by ancestral Master Bingyan, Ancestor Lan, who had been sitting in front of He Qianqi the entire time, let out a bell-like laugh. She said with her delicate but beautiful voice, "What a temper you have, ancestral Master Bingyan! He Qianqi is a great elder of my Tianhe clan after all. Even if he's in the wrong, he should be dealt with by our Tianhe clan. Since when is it the Snow Sect's place?" Ancestor Lan's voice became colder towards the end. As she spoke, a gentle force appeared in a flash. As it protected He Qianqi, it also stabbed mercilessly at ancestral Master Bingyan's suppressive force like a sharp spear. Bang! Immediately, a muffled sound erupted from the dazzling temple. A terrifying energy shockwave surged out with devastating power, causing countless cracks to appear in the surroundings of the temple. The cracks rapidly spread as cracking sounds rang out incessantly. The Divine Hall was only a medium-quality god artifact, so how could it endure the ripples of energy from experts like ancestral Master Bingyan and Ancestor Lan? Even a casual strike from the two of them was far more powerful than a medium-quality god artifact could endure. Fortunately, Ancestor Hanha and Ancestor Xianji were present. The two of them immediately stabilized the Divine Hall with their own power when they saw that the situation was bad. That was why the Divine Hall did not collapse. He Qianqi was naturally unharmed with Ancestor Lan's protection. At the same time, Ancestral Master Bingyan's suppressive force was completely destroyed by Ancestor Lan's counterattack. However, Ancestral Master Bingyan's suppressive force was only a disguise. Although the force she used to suppress He Qianqi did not contain any killing intent, it was only an act of teaching He Qianqi a lesson. However, behind the suppressive force was a killing force that caused Ancestor Lan's eyes to narrow. It was a finger-sized icicle that flickered with blue light. It had always been hidden in the air, only revealing itself after Ancestor Lan destroyed Ancestral Master Bingyan's suppressive force. As soon as the icicle appeared, it shot towards He Qianqi's forehead with lightning-like speed. It was a true, sure kill strike. Bingyan! Ancestor Lan roared furiously. She suddenly stood up from the chair, and a powerful aura erupted from her. As soon as she unleashed her aura, the middle-grade Divine Hall couldn't bear the burden and completely exploded with a boom, turning into countless fragments that shot in all directions. At the same time, Ancestor Lan pointed her finger in the air. The law of ice surged, and the space around He Qianqi froze. A thick layer of ice enveloped him from all directions. Boom! At the same time, Ancestor Bingyan's blue icicle basically launched a sneak attack, to strike, to seal, to block He Qianqi. The collision between the two was like the collision of two huge meteors. It also seemed like two worlds had collided violently. Immediately, it erupted with a great boom. Devastating energy ripped through space, causing the forbidden grounds of the Snow Sect to fall into darkness. Countless spatial cracks crisscrossed there, devouring everything. The ground shook and the mountains shook. Many of the icy mountains that had stood for many years collapsed. The great boom from the forbidden grounds of the Snow Sect alarmed the entire sect. What's going on? What happened? It's the forbidden grounds of the ancestors. Something has happened in there. What terrifying ripples of energy. Even after being weakened by our formations, they still remain so terrifying. Have the ancestors fallen into conflict with the Tianhe clan? All the infinite prime elders and chaotic prime great elders emerged from seclusion. They all stared at the forbidden grounds of the Snow Sect in surprise and doubt. They were stern. The ripples of energy that wreaked havoc in the forbidden grounds of the Snow Sect gradually settled down. The shattered space gradually closed up as well, revealing everyone. Now the luxurious hall used to receive the Lan ancestor had vanished. Everyone hovered in a world of ice and snow. The Lan ancestor stood in front of He Qianqi, facing off against Ancestor Bingyan. Her beautiful eyes became colder and colder. The evil elder also left his original position and appeared behind Ancestor Bingyan. Clearly, Ancestor Bingyan was protecting him. Ancestor Bingyan, what are you trying to do? The Lan ancestor glared at Ancestor Bingyan. This great elder of your Tianhe clan is far too disrespectful. I'm just going to teach him a small lesson. Who would have thought you'd protect him like this? Ancestor Bingyan said coldly. His gaze was also extremely cold. Teach him a lesson? Let me ask you, is there any chaotic prime who can survive an attack like that? I can clearly see that you want to kill him, the Lan ancestor said coldly. Ancestor Lan, you're exaggerating a little. If I really want to kill a chaotic prime with my strength, do you think that chaotic prime will be able to survive? As for the attack just now, it was only because I expected Ancestor Lan to make a move. So I gave Ancestor Lan a warning so that Ancestor Lan would understand where he was. Ancestor Bingyan's attitude became unyielding. This is the Snow Sect, not the Tianhe clan. A chaotic prime cannot act recklessly in the forbidden grounds of my Snow Sect. I never thought that Ancestor Bingyan would be able to easily cover up my actions of wanting to kill me with just a few words. Ancestor Bingyan's ability to explain himself really is extraordinary. If Ancestor Lan was just a split second slower, I'm afraid I wouldn't be standing here alive right now. He Qianqi, who stood behind the Lan ancestor, showed no fear at all. He faced Ancestor Bingyan's glare and continued. In my opinion, Ancestor Bingyan's actions earlier were probably just to warn Ancestor Lan. You just wanted to silence her. How dare you? You have no right to speak here. Ancestor Bingyan's face sank. She looked at the Lan ancestor and said, Ancestor Lan, have you come to my Snow Sect to challenge the authority of my Snow Sect? The Lan ancestor sighed gently. Whatever. Ancestor Bingyan, I won't keep you in suspense. I'll be honest. I've come to your esteemed sect this time to ask for a person. As for who that person is, I believe you have something on your mind. Hand that person over, and I'll leave immediately. If you don't. The Lan ancestor paused, and a sharp, cold light flickered through his eyes. He continued, Then the matter today will probably be very difficult to resolve peacefully. Ancestor Bingyan sneered. Is your Tianhe clan threatening our Snow Sect? Aren't you overestimating yourself a little too much? Let's not even talk about the fact that we don't have anyone from your Tianhe clan in our Snow Sect. Even if we do, it's because your Tianhe clan has offended our Snow Sect, which is why you've been imprisoned. How can our Snow Sect release a criminal like that so easily? Wouldn't that make our Snow Sect seem easy to bully? Since Ancestor Bingyan wants to play dumb, I can only make it clear. The person we're looking for is one of the 4 great protectors of the Ice Goddess Hall, Shui Yunlan. She has been captured by the great elder of your esteemed sect. Yu Yangxia, said the Lan ancestor. Chapter 3077. When Ancestor Bingyan scolded Ancestor Lan, the faces of Ancestor Hanha and Ancestor Xian Ji suddenly sank. Ancestor Hanha said sternly, Ancestor Lan, there are some things that you can't say carelessly. You can't joke around either. Shui Yunlan is a member of the Ice Goddess Hall, and she is greatly valued by the great Ice Goddess and Snow Goddess. No matter how bold our Snow Sect is, we can't afford to offend someone like her, let alone capture her. Ancestor Xian Ji added, Ancestor Lan, if you come to visit, our Snow Sect will welcome you with open arms and receive you with the highest level of respect. However, if you want to slander our Snow Sect, none of our disciples will allow it. Once things really develop to this stage, Ancestor Lan, you have to carefully consider whether the Heavenly Crane clan can withstand the torrential fury of our Snow Sect. Ancestor Lan had already anticipated the reactions of the ancestors of the Snow Sect. Ancestor Lan was not surprised by this at all. Instead, she found it extremely normal. If that's the case, then I'll have to borrow your sect's supreme elder Yangxia for the time being. Whether your snow sect is wrongly accused or harboring evil intentions, as long as we interrogate Yangxia, we will know everything. Ancestor Lan's voice became sharp. With that, she extended her slender hand casually, directly reaching towards Yangxia. Immediately, the energy in the surroundings surged. A tremendous presence suddenly erupted from the forbidden grounds of the Snow Sect, engulfing the entire encampment in a single instant. As soon as Ancestor Lan struck out, her presence was earth-shaking. A huge, icy hand appeared out of nowhere, flowing with destructive energy. It was accompanied by the laws of the world as it enveloped Yangxia. It was not just the great elder of the Snow Sect. Even Ancestor Bingyan, who was a 6th Heavenly Layer Grand Prime, was enveloped by Ancestor Lan's hand of energy. How dare you? Ancestor Lan, it looks like your Tianhe clan is determined to destroy itself. Ancestral Master Bingyan was furious. She immediately pushed Yangxia behind her to Ancestor Hanha and Ancestor Xianji, saying, Hanha, Xianji, you two must ensure the safety of our sect's Grand Elder. I am the Grand Elder of the Snow Sect. How noble is my status? How can someone casually interrogate me with just a few words? As she said that, Ancestral Master Bing Yen struck out decisively. Her presence erupted as the presence of a 6th Heavenly Layer Grand Prime rushed into the stars. Afterwards, she struck out with her palm and collided with the Lan ancestor. Under the protection of Patriarch Bingyan, it was almost impossible for Patriarch Lan to bypass Patriarch Bingyan and capture Yangxia. The battle between the two was unavoidable. Boom! In the forbidden area of the Snow Sect, an earth-shattering sound suddenly erupted. The power of the sound was dozens of times more terrifying than before, perhaps even hundreds of times more terrifying. Not only did the Snow Sect's encampment shake violently from the collision, but the torrential storm of energy also broke through the formation of the Snow Sect's forbidden grounds and spread outside the sect. Immediately, the void trembled. Heaven and earth were destroyed, and countless stars dimmed. This was a clash between 6th Heavenly Layer Grand Primes. Its power was so terrifying and shocking that it had exceeded the imaginations of all weaker cultivators. Even some infinite primes would rarely see something like this. In the next moment, countless senses of the soul shot over from various places on the ice pole plain. They were all surprised, shocked, and filled with disbelief as they gathered above the Snow Sect. The Grand Elder of the Heavenly Demon Religion, Chengming, stood on the top of the demonic castle in the territory of the Hoofing clan. He stared in the direction of the Snow Sect from afar as his gaze deepened. Quick! Strengthen the formations in the forbidden grounds and stop the ripples of energy from spreading, or the sect will be destroyed. Patriarch Fenghan called out loudly. Within the forbidden grounds of the Snow Sect, Ancestor Hanha bellowed. His face had become unprecedentedly stern. He and Ancestor Xian Ji immediately formed hand seals. Energy surged out of their bodies endlessly, gathering into the powerful defensive formation they had set up in the forbidden grounds of the sect. Under the full power of the two ancestors, Han He and Xian Ji, the protective formation of the Snow Sect's forbidden grounds finally stabilized from its violent shaking state. It blocked most of the energy shockwaves within the formation and did not affect the Snow Sect's encampment. After all, the formation was only used to protect the peace of the forbidden grounds so that it would not be disturbed by the outside world. As a result, its defenses were not particularly great. It could not be compared to the protective formation of the Snow Sect. When the rampaging storm of energy settled down, Ancestor Lan and Ancestor Bingyan were nowhere to be seen. At the same time, in the vast starry sky outside the ice pole region, there were shockwaves of energy wreaking havoc like raging waves. They pulverized one star after another, and even space was unable to heal from the impact. Ancestor Lan and Ancestor Bingyan fought fiercely in outer space. Their figures flickered in and out of the shattered space, sometimes entering the foreign space filled with violent energy and temporal vortices, and sometimes returning to the saint's world. The environment of the foreign space was extremely dangerous. Some of the terrifying temporal vortices could even kill primordial realm experts easily. However, with Ancestor Lan and Ancestor Bingyen's level of cultivation, the foreign space posed very little threat to them, allowing them to move about freely like it was flat ground. Although Ancestor Lan and Ancestor Bingyen had changed the battlefield, Patriarch Fenghan and Ancestor Xianji, who remained in the Forbidden Grounds, flew into a rage. Killing intent filled their faces. Bastard, the Tianhe clan is just too arrogant. They actually started a fight in my snow sect. If the two of us had not reacted in time and activated the extremely powerful defensive formation of the Forbidden Grounds, the consequences would have been unthinkable. If the storm of energy in the Forbidden Grounds had spread, it's not just unthinkable. The entire base of our snow sect would have been destroyed. After all, this is an internal conflict. Our protective formation only protects the outside world. Killing intent surged from Ancestor Hanha and Ancestor Xianji. They hated the Tianhe clan to the core. Ancestor Lan's actions were no different from a public declaration of war, and it was a situation where they would fight to the death. From today onwards, the Tianhe clan will become the mortal enemy of our snow sect. Our snow sect will never rest until the Tianhe clan is destroyed. Ancestor Hanha and Ancestor Xianji said at the same time. Their loud voices pierced through the formations in the Forbidden Grounds and rang through the entire snow sect. It shook up the entire snow sect. Many disciples and members of the upper echelon became rather stunned. What was going on? Hadn't they just opened the sect and received Ancestor Lan with an extremely high standard of etiquette? Why had they become mortal enemies with the snow sect in the blink of an eye? Many disciples of the snow sect were unable to react to such a great reversal in such a short amount of time. He Qianqi, you've seen what happened. Your Tianhe clan is courting death, so don't blame old man for bullying you. He's going to kill you as a mighty third, heavenly layer Grand Prime. You will be the first person to atone for your sins in the Tianhe clan. In the Forbidden Grounds of the Snow Sect, Patriarch Arcanum's face was filled with murderous intent. His face was terrifyingly dark, and his ferocious gaze was fixed on He Qianqi, who was still in the Forbidden Grounds with an ignorant look on his face. Chapter 3078. As soon as he struck out, the mystic ancestor struck out with a fatal strike. He wanted to take He Qianqi's life in the sharpest and most decisive way possible. The conflict between Ancestor Lan and Ancestral Master Bing Yen in the Forbidden Grounds had almost destroyed the Snow Sect. The mystic ancestor was naturally filled with resentment after witnessing all of this. Ancestor Lan was just too powerful. He could not defeat him, so all he could do was vent his anger on the great elder of the Tianhe clan, He Qianqi. When Ancestor Xianji attacked, He Qianqi, Yu Yangxie, who was standing behind Ancestor Han He, had a gloomy expression hidden under his mask. His eyes were fixed on He Qianqi, and there was deep doubt and confusion in the depths of his eyes. This was because no matter how he thought about it, he still could not figure out how the great elder of the Tianhe clan, He Qianqi, knew that he had captured Shui Yinlan. When he captured Shui Yinlan in the Ice Goddess Hall, Shui Yinlan had not exposed herself. Instead, she had appeared as an unfamiliar man. Logically speaking, it was impossible for anyone to recognize her. Moreover, there was no one in the Ice Goddess Hall at that time. Apart from the two primordial realm experts of the Moon God Hall, there was no one else. Then, how did He Qianqi learn about this? Did the two primordial realm experts of the Moon God Hall leak the secret? But that doesn't make sense. It's impossible for the two primordial realm experts to recognize Shui Yunlan under her disguise. Yun Wuxie was filled with doubt. She could not figure out what had gone wrong. In the blink of an eye, all of Yu Yangxie's thoughts happened in a split second. At this moment, the mystic ancestor's fingers had already arrived before He Qianqi's forehead. The 5 ice claws were about to pierce He Qianqi's forehead. The mystic ancestor's eyes were cold. At that moment, he seemed to be able to see He Qianqi's head being ripped apart. Ancestor Han, he was emotionless as well. In his opinion, the Tianhe clan deserved to die. Killing He Qianqi was only the beginning. However, just as He Qianqi was on the brink of death, a black figure suddenly appeared behind him. The moment the black figure appeared, it gave off a tremendous presence that caused the ancestor Xianji's expression to change drastically. Even the pupils of the ancestor Han he behind him shrank. The black figure suddenly erupted. The black figure threw a punch. Terrifying power shattered the surroundings, colliding with the mystic ancestor's hand immediately. Boom! In the forbidden grounds of the Snow Sect, there was another deafening roar as it collided with the Black Shadow's fist. The 5 ice blades of Xian Ji's 5 fingers were instantly shattered, but the Black Shadow's fist did not slow down in the slightest. After shattering Xian Ji's fatal attack on He Qianqi, it continued on like a hot knife through butter, piercing through layer after layer of space before finally landing on Xian Ji's right palm with an earth-shattering force. Immediately, the bones in Xian Ji's right arm cracked and fell powerlessly. Droplets of blood dripped from his fingertips. Each droplet pulsed with extremely powerful energy. This was the blood of a Grand Prime. The energy within any single droplet could easily kill any divine king. Blood trickled down from the forefather's fingertips and dripped to the ground. Xian Ji ignored the wound on his arm. He stared at the black figure that had suddenly appeared behind He Qianqi with a sunken face. He was furious as he gritted his teeth. Han Zong of the martial soul lineage. Han Zong, when did your martial soul lineage collude with the Tianhe clan? Does your martial soul lineage plan on becoming enemies with my Snow Sect? Ancestor Han, he called out. His presence as a 4th heavenly layer Grand Prime suddenly erupted, blanketing the surroundings. To no surprise, the black figure beside He Qianqi was the first senior brother of the martial soul lineage, Han Zong. At this moment, Han Zong was dressed in black clothes as energy surged from him. His presence was extremely powerful, having completely surpassed 9th heavenly layer chaotic primes. Let alone 9th heavenly layer chaotic primes, even the 3rd heavenly layer Grand Prime, the mystic ancestor, paled in comparison to Han Zong. The mountain soul of the martial soul mountain hovered silently outside the ice pole plain like a ghost. On the mountain soul, Chu Jian, Yu Chao, Yun Ziding, Su Qi by Rafeng, and Qingshan had already formed the martial soul array. With the help of the formation, all of their powers were gathered together perfectly, and all of it gathered on Han Zong. Take care of yourselves. Han Zong ignored the 2 ancestors of the Snow Sect. Instead, he turned his head and warned He Qianqi carefully through a communication technique. In the next moment, he suddenly charged towards Ancestor Han He. How dare you? What kind of place do your martial soul lineage think our Snow Sect is? How can we allow you to act recklessly in the territory of our Snow Sect? Ancestor Han, he bellowed out, and an azure sword immediately appeared in his hand. It gave off the terrifying pressure of a high-quality god artifact. As Ancestor Han, he swung his sword, the forbidden grounds of the Snow Sect immediately lit up. The entire region was dyed azure as a strand of sword chi several hundred meters long tore through the layers of space, heading towards Han Zong mercilessly. This was an attack from a 4th heavenly layer Grand Prime. Compared to the mystic ancestor, who was at the 3rd heavenly layer, Ancestor Han, he was far more powerful. Han Zong showed no fear. A strange light flashed through his eyes. Just as the azure sword chi arrived, he pressed his forehead steadily before suddenly extending a finger towards Ancestor Han. The gesture was extremely similar to the movement of a blade. The only strange thing was that there was no weapon in Han Zhang's hand, nor was there any pulses of energy. However, when Han Zong extended his finger, Ancestor Han, his expression changed drastically. His eyes narrowed immediately as well. He could sense the descent of great danger from the depths of his soul. Although Ancestor Hanha was alarmed, he was completely unable to sense where this sense of danger was coming from. Heaven-severing technique. It was also at this moment that Han Zhang's lips moved slightly, and he said it gently. However, both Ancestor Han He and the mystic ancestors' expressions changed drastically when they heard the words heaven-severing technique. They were not unfamiliar with the heaven-severing technique because the ancient records of the Snow sect contained records of it. Moreover, these records were not based on the current successor of the martial soul lineage. Instead, they were written by the past ancestors of the Snow sect based on the past few successors of the martial soul lineage. Although there were only a few strokes, it clearly demonstrated the power of the secret technique. However, before Ancestor Han he could think too much about it, a great rumble suddenly rang out in his head. It was as if an invisible blade had suddenly appeared in his soul. Afterwards, it viciously slashed at his soul. Ancestor Hanha's body trembled violently. He staggered and nearly fell to the ground. His aura instantly became chaotic, and he could not control the energy in his body. Even the azure sword he swung at Han Zhang immediately became powerless. The surging energy in the sword receded like the tide as well. Arg! Ancestor Han, he supported himself with his sword as he stood there while trembling. He clutched his head with his other hand as he produced a painful cry. The heaven-severing martial spirit had severely injured his primordial spirit. It was like a blade had almost cut his primordial spirit in half, bringing him intense pain. However, Han Zhang paled slightly after using the heaven-severing technique. He seemed rather weak. He was not the only one. The other successors of the martial soul lineage on the mountain soul were the same. The heaven-severing technique had instantly drained half of their martial soul force. Losing so much martial soul force in such a short amount of time naturally affected the successors of the martial soul lineage quite a bit. Under the effects of the martial soul array, Han Zhang's attacks no longer relied on his own strength. Instead, it relied on the power of the 7 of them, including the heaven-severing technique. Chapter 3079. The ancestor of the mystic pole was both surprised and furious when he personally witnessed Ancestor Hanha become heavily injured. However, he clearly knew that Han Zhang would face tremendous exhaustion after using the heaven-severing technique. As a result, Han Zhang just happened to be in his weakest state when he used the heaven-severing technique. As a result, the ancestor of the mystic pole did not hesitate at all. He did not take out a high-quality god artifact, like Ancestor Hanha. Instead, he waved his hands and rapidly formed seals. With the formation of the seal, a huge pressure of the heavens and the earth descended. The terrifying energy fluctuation shook the forbidden area of the Snow sect. The ancestor of the mystic pole did not underestimate his opponent. He used his full strength right from the start, directly using a god-tier battle skill. With his cultivation as a 3rd heavenly layer Grand Prime, using a god-tier battle skill was naturally a piece of cake for him. As a result, he used it in a single instance. It was an illusionary divine kingdom of ice and snow. It rapidly appeared in the snowy sky. As soon as it appeared, it seemed to change the space there, sucking Han Zhang's surroundings into the divine kingdom of ice and snow. Space twisted and the landscape blurred. Han Zhang immediately became hazy as if he really was about to fall into the divine kingdom of ice and snow created by the god-tier battle skill. The divine kingdom of ice and snow seemed to be filled with endless danger, hiding shocking killing intent. However, the ancestor of the mystic pole failed to notice that when he used the god-tier battle skill, the eyes of the great elder of the Tianhe clan, He Qianqi, immediately lit up. He stared at the divine kingdom of ice and snow, and not only did his expression become rather intriguing, but excitement flickered in the depths of his eyes as well. Han Zhang, this is the ultimate technique of our Snow sect, the ultimate Snow Kingdom. Our ancestor paid an extremely great price to obtain this technique from the Ice Goddess Hall in the end. Once you fall into the ultimate snow kingdom, you won't be able to escape easily even with the power of the martial soul mountain. The ancestor of the mystic pole called out. However, just as his voice faded, he saw the powerful pressure between the heavens and the earth suddenly disappear. Like a tide, it disappeared completely in an instant. The supreme divine technique he used, the supreme snow country, also seemed to have its source of energy blocked. Unable to continue, it directly collapsed from the void. In a single moment, the illusionary divine kingdom vanished, turning into a large expanse of snow that drifted down from the sky. What is going on? The ancestor of the mystic pole was stunned. His eyes widened as disbelief filled his face. His supreme divine technique had clearly been completed. So why did it suddenly collapse in an instant? The god-tier battle skill had clearly been unleashed, but it had mysteriously dissipated all of a sudden. Even though the mysterious ancestor had lived for tens of thousands of years and was used to seeing all sorts of strange things, he had never heard of such a strange thing happening. On the other side, Hunzong was stunned as well. He found it extremely strange that the ancestor of the mystic pole's god-tier battle skill had suddenly collapsed. However, he laughed aloud soon afterwards. Ha 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 ha, so this is your supreme technique. It really does live up to its name. With that, Hunzong threw a punch, colliding with the ancestor's hand that he had hurriedly sent out. A great rumble immediately erupted in the forbidden grounds of the Snow Sect. This time, as all the Grand Primes had taken part in the battle, no one had the time to deal with it. Naturally, no one was able to stabilize the formations in the forbidden grounds. Immediately, the formations that had been damaged from the clash between Ancestor Lon and Ancestor Bing Yen finally collapsed, completely collapsing. A powerful storm of energy immediately surged out of the forbidden grounds like a tidal wave. It swept through the base of the Snow Sect in an unstoppable manner. Wherever it passed by, countless mountains collapsed and all the pavilions were destroyed. Every single strike from Grand Primes possessed devastating power. When they clashed, the terrifying shockwaves from the clashes of energy would be devastating to any sect that did not have powerful formations. All great elders of the Snow Sect move out, work together to protect the sect. An old voice rang out from the Snow Sect. It was hurried and stern. In the next moment, the presences of chaotic primes erupted wildly from various parts of the Snow Sect. All the great elders of the Snow Sect rushed into the sky. They were determined to protect the sect with their lives, using their bodies to block the storm of energy. They did their best to resist it. However, as soon as they came in contact with the shock waves of energy, their bodies immediately shuddered. A few weaker chaotic primes directly fell out of the sky as their faces paled. Martial Soul Force. This is Martial Soul Force. Oh no! The ripples of energy contain Martial Soul Force. A ninth heavenly layer chaotic prime, Great Elder bellowed out furiously as his face darkened. As they resisted the shock waves of energy, their souls had to endure the impact of the Martial Soul Force. This was no different from adding fuel to the fire. How dare you? Who is bold enough to destroy my Snow Sect? Suddenly, a cold snort rang out from the sky. The voice was icy cold, and it was filled with fury as well as undisguised killing intent. With that, an extremely powerful pressure suddenly appeared. No one knew where the pressure came from, but as soon as it appeared, it filled the entire Snow Sect. Under the pressure of the pressure, everything in the world seemed to fall silent. The space in the Snow Sect seemed to freeze and time seemed to stop. Everything stopped reviving. Even the storm of energy that had almost destroyed the Snow Sect from Hunzong and the Black Pole ancestors' clash rapidly dispersed under the pressure. The person had not even taken action. Just the pressure she gave off possessed such terrifying might. Her strength was unimaginable. Ancestral Master Bingyan. It's Ancestral Master Bingyan. Ancestral Master Bingyan has emerged. God damn it, We actually disturbed ancestral Master Bingyan and made her break out of seclusion. We deserve to die, ancestral Master Bingyan. It's us disciples who are useless. Countless members of the upper echelon of the Snow Sect called out. They were all either emotional or guilty. Martial soul lineage, Tinhak clan, the ancestral Master Bingyun's voice rang out again. It was extremely cold, and it was filled with killing intent that was so cold that it seemed to be able to seal up the world. She scanned the surroundings with the senses of her soul, and she saw the situation of the Snow Sect clearly in a single instance. The forbidden grounds had been destroyed, and the sect had been reduced to a mess. Countless disciples were injured, and the soul of one of the 4 ancestors, Ancestor Han-He, was heavily injured. Naturally, the ancestral Master Bingyan was furious. The ancestral Master Bingyan did not appear, but the wind and snow in the Snow Sect had become even more violent. In the next moment, a gigantic figure condensed from countless snowflakes abruptly appeared. It contained a torrential power. With a single move, it could pierce through the sky and tear apart the galaxy. However, as soon as the snow giant appeared, black clouds suddenly pressed down outside the Snow Sect. Lightning flashed and thunder boomed. The huge, black clouds that had appeared out of nowhere enveloped the entire place. Chapter 3080. The huge, dark cloud devoured the light and brought with it endless darkness. Under the dark cloud, the entire base of the Snow Sect was plunged into darkness. Kacha! Suddenly, a clap of thunder resounded from the dark clouds. The loud sound was extremely terrifying. It pierced through metal and cracked stone, shattering many of the snowy peaks in the Ice Pole province. It directly triggered a large-scale avalanche. The sound was so shocking that it was as if the end of the world had arrived. Even the interior of the sect was greatly affected. Many of the ice and snow peaks collapsed. Endless snow rolled down from high above, drowning the earth and burying many ice and snow palaces. The disciples of the Snow Sect all flew into the sky to avoid the heavy snow that fell from the surroundings. The huge, icy giant condensed from the ancestral Master Bingyan was just about to deal with Hunzong of the martial soul lineage, but it was forced to temporarily cast Hunzong aside. It raised its head and stared at the sky. Its gaze seemed to be able to pierce through space, directly staring at the huge, dark cloud outside the Snow Sect through the protective formations. Or rather, her gaze was fixed on a certain spot in the dark clouds, a figure that was hidden in the dark clouds and seemed to have merged perfectly with the clouds. The rain abyss of the Cloud Zurge Empire. A deep voice echoed through the surroundings of the Snow Sect. It was the ancestral Master Bingyun's voice. Her clear voice was bone-chilling. As the ancestral Master Bingyun's voice rang out, the wind and snow in the Snow Sect seemed to become even more violent. The temperature in the surroundings seemed to plummet, becoming even colder. Even a few great elders who had reached chaotic primes could not help but shiver. The sudden changes to the Snow Sect immediately attracted the attention of all the peak experts on the Ice Pole Plain. At that moment, all the powerful senses of the soul that had extended into outer space to pay close attention to the battle between the ancestral Master Bingyan and the ancestral Master Lan were pulled back as soon as possible. They began to pay attention to what was happening to the Snow Sect. The ancestral Master Bingyan of the Snow Sect has actually emerged from seclusion. I wonder if she has broken through after so many years of seclusion. Although Ancestor Bingyan is a 6th Heavenly Layer Grand Prime, she already possesses the power to fight 7th Heavenly Layer experts. She can barely be regarded as a 7th Heavenly Layer expert. The rain abyss of the Delight Plane could have offended anyone, but she just had to offend Ancestor Bingyan. She even trapped the Snow Sect with the formation of Cloud Surge and Rain Flood. She's clearly asking to be humiliated. Ancestral Master Bingyan is a supreme expert on par with 7th Heavenly Layer experts, while the Rain Abyss is a 5th Heavenly Layer Grand Prime. I really wonder where she gets the confidence to provoke ancestral Master Bingyan. Everyone, don't underestimate the Rain Abbess. Not long ago, the battle between the Rain Abbess and the Blue Sky Venerable shook the world. Although the Rain Abbess was at the 5th heavenly layer, she was no weaker than the Blue Sky Venerable. As a matter of fact, Old Man even suspected that the Blue Sky Venerable's death was probably caused by the Rain Abbess. The Lord of Planet Wando, the Blue Sky Venerable, is a 6th heavenly layer Grand Prime. Defeating a 6th heavenly layer Grand Prime doesn't mean killing him. It's impossible for the Rain Abbess to be responsible for the Blue Sky Venerable's death. That's right. Unless the Blue Sky Venerable wanted to fight to the death, fell into a trap, or was surrounded by many experts at the same level as him. He should have been able to flee even if he encountered a 7th heavenly layer expert with his strength at the 6th heavenly layer. As a result, it's impossible for the Rain Abbess to kill the Blue Sky Venerable. On the ice pole plane, the senses of the Grand Prime souls connected as they discussed. As they paid close attention to the situation of the Snow Sect, they also doubted the Rain Abbess' strength. The 6 successors who stood in the Martial Soul Array all stared at the ice pole plane on the mountain soul of the Martial Soul Mountain in outer space. They looked at the formation of Cloud Surge and Rain Flood that enveloped the entire Snow Sect in surprise. The Rain Abbess of the Delight Plane has actually come. Is she the reinforcements that First Senior Brother has invited? But the Rain Abbess only seems to be a 5th heavenly layer Grand Prime, while the founder of the Snow Sect, Bingyan, is a supreme expert who can take on 7th heavenly layer Grand Primes. Can the Rain Abbess really stop her? Chu Jian and Yu Chao said. They were very uncertain about the battle between the Rain Abbess and the founder of the Bingyun Plane. They had no confidence at all. In their eyes, the Rain Abbess battle against the 6th heavenly layer Blue Sky Venerable outside the Cloud Plane was already the limit. Although the news of Blue Sky Venerable's death had spread, who knew how he had died and who had killed him? However, they definitely did not believe that the Rain Abbess had killed the Blue Sky Venerable. No wonder the Rain Abbess suddenly came to assist us when we were struggling on the Cloud Plane. So it was all because of First Senior Brother. Compared to whether the Rain Abbess can keep the founder of the Bingyun Plane busy, I'm more curious about how First Senior Brother knows the Rain Abbess. Suchi snickered as if she had discovered a whole new world. Are these the reinforcements Jianqin has invited? Ancestor Lan, who was currently fighting against the founder of the Bingyun Plane, frowned as well. Naturally, she had heard about the Rain Abbess from the Delight Plane, but she also did not believe the Rain Abbess was the founder of the Bingyun Plane's opponent. Suddenly, rain began to pour from the dark clouds of the Snow Sect. Bean-sized droplets of rain fell from the extremely cold sky, landing on the protective formations of the Snow Sect with the power of the laws of rain and the ripples of the laws of space. In a single moment, the protective formation of the Snow Sect shone brightly. Strands of shocking power erupted from the formation. However, as the entire Snow Sect was enveloped by the formation of Cloud Surge and Rain Flood, the power from the formation did not spread beyond the sect. When the countless droplets of rain came in contact with the protective formations of the Snow Sect, it was like 2 supreme experts were clashing violently. A storm of energy erupted. Even though the Snow Sect was protected by an extremely powerful protective formation, the droplets of rain with the power of the laws of space still managed to break through in the end and enter the sect. Immediately, rain began to pour in the Snow Sect. Ah, is this the legendary rain? Mummy, daddy, look. It's raining. It's raining. A young girl sat on the shoulder of a middle-aged man somewhere in the Snow Sect as she called out excitedly. However, the parents of the girl did not cheer up at all. Instead, they were extremely stern. The rain that fell from the sky shocked the couple. They felt like the sky was collapsing. It would never rain in the Snow Sect, much less rain. There would only be snow drifting down. However, rain had appeared here. They knew extremely well what it meant. It meant that the Rain Abbess had already broken through the protective formations of the Snow Sect. However, The rain possessed astonishing power outside the protective formations, but once it entered the snow sect, it immediately turned into ordinary rain. It did not possess any energy at all. The extreme coldness of the snow sect was unable to freeze the rain into ice. However, there was one exception, and that was the ice giant condensed by the ancestral Master Binyan. When the heavy rain fell on the snow giant's body, it seemed to have an extremely strong corrosive power. It actually caused the mighty snow giant to melt little by little, turning into a pool of bone-chilling snow water. Seeing that the ice giant was about to dissipate, the ice cloud ancestor who was hiding in the dark finally couldn't sit still. A door suddenly opened in the void, and a beautiful young woman wearing white clothes walked out from inside. Her face was expressionless, and her gaze was incomparably cold. The woman was the ancestral Master Binyan. Rain Abbess, I've underestimated you. With that, the ancestral Master Binyan extended a slender finger towards the sky. Under this finger, the void seemed to freeze in an instant. The heavy rain that filled the sky paused for a moment, then immediately turned into crystal, clear ice beads. Then, as if under a spell, they were frozen in the sky. Chapter 3081. The Binyan ancestral master moved through the formation of cloud surge and rain flood like it was flat ground, crossing a world with each step. With just a flash, she arrived before the Rain Abbess. Powerful energy surged from the frozen cloud ancestor's body like a tsunami. It wreaked havoc within the formation of cloud surge and rain flood with world-destroying might. At the same time, strands of extremely powerful laws of ice appeared in the space enveloped by the formation. Wherever they passed, space froze and the dark clouds froze. Even the countless bolts of lightning that wreaked havoc in the clouds seemed to be covered in a thin layer of frost. In short, with the entrance of the frozen cloud ancestral master, the entire formation became black and white. The black side was naturally the region under the Rain Abbess control. The white side had been forcefully transformed by the frozen cloud ancestral master. She had used her power to twist the world to turn it into her own battlefield, her own territory. Before the frozen cloud ancestral master had even taken action, she had already damaged the powerful formation, affecting its operation. This was more than enough to demonstrate just how powerful the frozen cloud ancestral master was. Ancestral Master Frozen Cloud, I've heard of your name for a very long time now. Now that I've met you, you really do live up to your reputation. You really are someone who can fight against the seventh heavenly layer. The Rain Abbess hid in the clouds and Rain within the formation. She seemed to have fused with the formation, where only a hazy figure could be seen. Compared to me, you're even more complicated, said the frozen cloud ancestral master. Although she was the most powerful ancestor of the snow sect, she only seemed like a woman in her 20s. She was devastatingly beautiful. However, on that peerless face that could cause the downfall of a nation, there was an extremely cold expression. Rain Abbess, do you want to become enemies with my snow sect? The frozen cloud ancestral master continued. Her voice was filled with killing intent. It was obvious that she was a decisive, vicious woman. Become enemies with your snow sect? I'm not interested in that. I've come today to fight you, said the Rain Abbess. The frozen cloud ancestral master's eyes turned cold. She said coldly, my snow sect is under attack right now. If you take action now, you'll definitely become an enemy of my snow sect. We'll fight to the death. Fight to the death? The Rain Abbess smiled indifferently. She said, Ancestor Binyan, why don't you say that after you've officially reached the seventh heavenly layer? With that, the Rain Abbess struck out decisively. She used a technique, and countless droplets of rain immediately condensed out of thin air, enveloping the ancestor with surging power. On the Rain Abbess' snow-white neck that was covered by her clothes, there were 3 fish scales that were usually hidden. They were gold, silver, and bronze. But at this moment, only the gold and silver scales were left. The bronze scales had disappeared long ago. The ancestral Master Bing-yin struck out as well. The laws of ice descended, immediately turning the surroundings into a world of ice and snow. She engaged in an intense battle with the Rain Abbess. The battle between the two of them was far more powerful than that between Ancestor Lan and Ancestor Bing-yin. After all, although Ancestor Bing-yin was also in the 6th heavenly layer like them, she already had the ability to fight those above her level. She was able to fight against those in the 7th heavenly layer with her 6th heavenly layer cultivation. As for the Rain Abbess, she was so powerful that the 6th heavenly layer Venerable Lan Tian had to flee after the bronze scales vanished. Now, she was on par with Ancestor Bing-yin. She did not lose the upper hand at all. The shock waves from the battle between the Rain Abbess and Ancestor Bing-yin had even exceeded the level of the 6th heavenly layer. They had reached the level of 7th heavenly layer Grand Primes. The difference between the 7th heavenly layer and the 6th heavenly layer only seemed to be a single heavenly layer, but it was a qualitative difference. This was the difference between mid-Grand Primes and late Grand Primes. In the vast Saints world, once a 7th heavenly layer Grand Prime reached late Grand Primes, their status and influence would be completely different. Boom! A shocking explosion rang out from the ice pole plane. Not only did it shake up the entire plane, but it even caused the space around the snow sect to collapse on a large scale. Destructive ripples of energy wreaked havoc in the surroundings, causing the entire plane to shake and sway in the air. This was the phenomenon of the battle between Ancestor Bing-yin and the Rain Abbess. It was shocking and extremely terrifying. With the violent boom, the formation of cloud surge and rain flood around the snow sect immediately shattered. As the dark clouds that blotted out the sky dispersed, what appeared was not the original world. Instead, it was a huge dark space. It was like the gaping mouth of a monster that could devour everything. The Rain Abbess and the Bing-yin Ancestral Master had already vanished. The two of them had left the world and entered the spatial crack with an extremely harsh environment. An intense battle unfolded there. As a matter of fact, it was even possible to vaguely see the azure way of rain and the snow-white way of ice colliding time and time again through the dark space above the snow sect. The two powers intertwined, erupting with terrifying might that struck fear into the hearts of all the Grand Primes on the ice pole plane. The Rain Abbess isn't at the 5th heavenly layer. She has actually been hiding her strength the entire time. She has reached the 6th heavenly layer long ago. Unbelievable, truly unbelievable. How can the Rain Abbess be so powerful? The strength she displayed when she fought Ancestor Bing-yin has probably surpassed the 6th heavenly layer. The Rain Abbess is actually able to match the Ancestral Master of the Frozen Cloud sect. This is just unbelievable. Has the Lord of Planet Wando, the Blue Sky Venerable, really been killed by the Rain Abbess? If that's really the case, the Rain Abbess is far too vicious. There doesn't seem to be any irreconcilable grievances between the Blue Sky Venerable and the Rain Abbess. It's just a small conflict at most. Yet she killed a 6th heavenly layer Grand Prime over such a small matter. We can tell that the Rain Abbess is far more vicious than we can imagine. She's a terrifying woman. We can't afford to offend her. The battle between the Rain Abbess and Ancestor Bing-yin immediately shook up the entire ice pole plane. Many of the peak experts on the ice pole plane did not blame Ancestor Bing-yin for her strength, but the Rain Abbess' strength had truly overturned everything they knew. The battle between Ancestor Lan and Ancestor Bing-yin was nowhere near as intense as before, because the two of them had both split off a portion of their attention to pay close attention to the battle between the Rain Abbess and Ancestor Bing-yin. Their hearts churned. The heavenly demon religion busied themselves nervously in the territory of the Huffing clan. The Grand Elder ordered them to clean up the battlefield faster, so all the Infinite Primes who were originally free joined in the plundering of the Huffing clan. At that moment, the various resources and treasures of the Huffing clan all fell into the hands of the heavenly demon religion. All the wealth they had accumulated over countless years was swept clean in a single instance. Chapter 3082. The spatial crack was filled with various chaotic streams of energy. There were many temporal vortexes that could kill even primordial realm experts. The battle between the Rain Abyss and the Bingyun ancestor had reached a climax somewhere in the spatial crack. Their battle was extraordinarily intense, producing powerful ripples of energy that swept through the entire region with devastating power. Wherever they passed by, they would destroy everything. Countless streams of energy that filled the region were reduced to dust. Even the temporal vortexes of various sizes collapsed from the ripples of their battle. The two of them could no longer be seen in there. All that could be seen were two powerful balls of light colliding and entangling with one another. Every ball of light seemed to be a world. They produced great booms when they collided, shaking up the souls of others. Unparalleled kingdom of snow. Suddenly, the Bingyun ancestral master let out a delicate shout. In this different space, snow instantly filled the sky as they fluttered about. A huge, illusory divine country instantly materialized, sealing the sky as a prison. In an instant, this space was confined, and after that, this space was brought into the illusory snow country. The Rain Abyss was unable to escape. She was sucked in immediately, appearing in the illusionary kingdom. In the next moment, the illusory snow country exploded with a monstrous killing aura. Numerous icicles, ice blades, ice arrows, and even ice spears shot out from all directions. Each attack contained a supreme charm and had a shocking power. The attacks were densely packed and stacked on top of one another, filling the entire region. They were like thousands of arrows, all aimed at the Rain Abyss. The Rain Abyss was enveloped by the power of clouds and rain. Her figure was blurry and indiscernible. She stood in the illusionary kingdom. Even though she was surrounded, she did not panic. She was composed. Faced with the attacks that came from all directions, she did not do anything excessive. She only raised her slender hand steadily and pressed down gently in front of her. With this press, the illusory snow country suddenly shook violently. The space of the snow country seemed to have collapsed. Not only was the scene blurred, but it was also chaotic. Even the countless icicles, ice blades, ice arrows, and other attacks that were shot from all directions were broken at this moment, turning into waves of cold currents that dissipated in the snow country. However, the god-tier battle skill of the unparalleled kingdom of snow was a supreme technique that originated from the ice goddess hall after all. It had always been treated as a treasure of the snow sect, so its power was far greater than that. In the illusory snow country, after the countless icicles dissipated, huge figures appeared one after another. They were 4 ice giants that stood over 300 meters tall. They wore armor of ice and held spears in their hands. They seemed like 4 divine generals that protected the kingdom. They possessed extraordinary might. Every single one of the 4 divine generals possessed the same cultivation as the caster. They possessed the strength of 6th heavenly layer grand primes. Perhaps their only flaw was that they lacked the ability to fight above their level of cultivation. That said, even though that was the case, their superiority in numbers made it so that the 4 immortal generals of ice and snow possessed an intimidating might. This was because they were equivalent to 4 6th heavenly layer grand primes. If they appeared on the ice pole plane, they would possess an unbelievably tremendous power. Out of the 49 great planes of the Saints' world, many of them did not possess a single 6th heavenly layer grand prime, yet 4 of them had appeared all of a sudden in the illusionary kingdom of snow. The 4 divine generals surrounded the Rain Abyss from all 4 directions. Afterwards, they raised their spears at the same time and stabbed out. The spears pierced through the air, destroying the world. The entire ice-snow divine kingdom was filled with a violent energy. The space within the divine kingdom seemed to have been pierced, causing the 4 spears to instantly disappear into the void when they pierced out. The Rain Abyss formed a seal with a single hand. She was in no hurry at all. As she formed a seal, 4 fish scales immediately appeared out of nowhere. The fish scales were completely condensed from energy and laws. They shone brilliantly like gold. Boom, 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 boom. The spears of the 4 divine ice generals stabbed at the 4 golden scales with destructive force. The scales immediately shone brightly, and with a slight tremor, they successfully blocked the attacks of the 4 divine ice generals. At the same time, the rain abbess extended a slender finger and gently swept it across the space before her. Her movements were extremely graceful, and wherever her finger passed, space would immediately ripple. In the next moment, countless spatial cracks crisscrossed on the 4 ice generals. They were extremely sharp, as if they could cut through everything in the world. The 4 ice generals' indomitable bodies were instantly cut into countless pieces by these spatial cracks. However, the 4 divine generals seemed to be indestructible. As soon as they were defeated, they condensed again out of nowhere. They were still as powerful as 6th heavenly layer grand primes. The rain abbess swiped her finger gently again. Using the same move, the 4 divine generals of ice shattered as soon as they were formed. Her spatial force was like the sharpest blade in the world. Even though the armor on the divine generals of ice was extremely tough, it was like paper before the spatial blade. It was extremely fragile. However, the divine kingdom of ice seemed to give birth to divine generals endlessly. In the next moment, another 4 divine generals condensed. The snow sect's ancestor Bingyan was known to be able to fight against a 7th layer of heaven. This was not entirely due to the cultivation method that Ancestor Bingyan cultivated or her own cultivation. Right now, the unparalleled snow country that she displayed was her greatest reliance in being able to fight against a 7th layer of heaven expert. Although the 4 divine generals conjured from the divine kingdom of ice were only at the 6th heavenly layer, their advantage was that they were indestructible. Once they were defeated, they would immediately condense again. Even 7th heavenly layer grand primes would struggle to break free from the endless cycle of resurrection, as if they had fallen into a swamp. Sigh. However, at this moment, the rain abbess, who was enveloped by the power of clouds and rain, sighed gently. She said with a sliver of disappointment, "Founder Bingyan, if that's all you're capable of, our battle can end here." With that, the power of clouds and rain around the rain abbess suddenly swelled. Like a domain, it immediately expanded, enveloping the illusionary divine kingdom of ice and snow like how it surrounded the snow sect. This is impossible." The founder Bingyan's shocked voice rang out from the illusionary divine kingdom. Afterwards, the illusionary divine kingdom vanished. All that could be seen from the outside was a huge ball of power that had already contracted, expanded, and contracted. Chapter 3083. It's just too surprising. It's just too surprising. The rain abbess of the Delight Plane is actually able to stand up to the Bingyun ancestor. Who do you think will emerge victorious in the battle between the 2 of them? Is there even a need to ask? It'll obviously be the Bingyun ancestor. Although the rain abbess of the Delight Plane can stand up to the Bingyun ancestor, that's only because the Bingyun ancestor hasn't used her full strength. Do you know about the core technique of the Snow Sect? It's something the past ancestors of the Snow Sect brought out from the Ice Goddess Hall. Once the Bingyun ancestor uses it, the rain abbess will definitely be defeated no matter how powerful she is. That's right. Unless the rain abbess is a 7th heavenly layer grand prime, it's impossible for her to be the Bingyun ancestor's opponent. What we should be paying attention to right now isn't who will emerge victorious between the rain abbess and the Bingyun ancestor. Instead, we should be paying attention to how long the rain abbess can last against the Bingyun ancestor. However, even if the rain abbess loses this battle, it'll still be a glorious defeat. After all, they're both at the 6th heavenly layer. Her defeat to the Bingyun ancestor is not unjust at all. On the other hand, the Delight Plane's ranking will probably increase quite a lot after this. The ancestors of many peak organizations discussed a battle in various places on the Ice Pole Plane. None of them had any intentions of interfering with the battle in the Snow Sect. They were like spectators, quietly watching the situation unfold. However, To their surprise, the battle between the Rain Abbess and the Bingyun ancestor ended much faster than they had imagined. The space above the snow sect collapsed loudly with a great rumble. Immediately, a power of extreme coldness and the power of clouds and rain leaked out. With it, a figure fell out like a broken kite. It's over so quickly, the Rain Abbess battle prowess doesn't seem like much. She's actually been defeated so quickly. In my opinion, the reason why the Rain Abbess can erupt with battle prowess at the 7th heavenly layer is probably because she used some secret technique to temporarily erupt with strength. Now that the secret technique is up, she obviously won't be able to last much longer against the Bingyun ancestor. Yes, that should be the case. Just like the ancestral blood pill of the Tianhe clan, the strength of the Tianhe clan will also soar after consuming the ancestral blood pill, but it won't last for long. After figuring this out, many of the top experts in the Ice Pole province felt much more at ease. Many of them secretly heaved a sigh of relief. This was because when the Rain Abbess suddenly erupted with strength comparable to the Bingyun ancestral master, it had indeed given them quite a fright. It seemed like the Rain Abbess of the Delight Plane was not as terrifying as they had imagined her to be. That's not right. That's actually ancestral Master Bingyun. At this moment, a powerful consciousness intertwined in the sky above the snow sect suddenly trembled violently, and the master of the consciousness cried out in shock. Only now did everyone see clearly that the figure that fell out of the spatial crack was clearly the legendary figure of the snow sect, Founder Bingyun. This discovery immediately caused all the powerhouses in the Ice Pole province to suck in a breath of cold air. Every single one of them felt a storm in their hearts. At this moment, the Bingyun ancestral master fell rapidly. Her aura was chaotic, and her face was abnormally pale. There was even a sliver of blood at the corner of her mouth. Clearly, she was injured. Ancestor Bingyun only managed to stabilize her rapidly falling body when she arrived in front of the snow sect's protective array. Her pale face turned incomparably solemn. Afterwards, the Rain Abbess flew out of the spatial crack as well. With her appearance, the surroundings immediately began to rain heavily. Lightning flashed and thunder boomed, completely suppressing the wind and snow of the snow sect. Compared to the Bingyun ancestral master's horrible condition, the Rain Abbess was much more composed. Her figure remained hazy and illusionary, giving off a sense of mystery. Afterwards, she slowly descended and hovered before the Bingyun ancestral master. "Tell the people of your snow sect to stop," the Rain Abbess said calmly. She did not waver at all. The Bingyun ancestral master's face sank. After a moment of hesitation, she formed a seal and opened up the protective formation of the snow sect. Suddenly, the entire scene of the snow sect was clearly displayed. However, a great battle was currently taking place inside. Even though it was not as great as the battle between the Lan ancestor and Bingyun ancestral master, it was still extremely intense. Hunzong was currently fighting the Black Pole ancestor, while the great elder of the Tianhe clan, Qianqi, was surrounded and attacked by many great elders of the Snow Sect. "Disciples of the Snow Sect, stop!" The Bingyun ancestral master called out before looking at outer space. She said, "Bingyun, come back as well." Since the strongest ancestor of the Snow Sect had given an order, there was naturally no one who dared to disobey. Immediately, all the great elders who were attacking Qianqi stopped. Even the ancestor of the Black Pole stopped fighting Hunzong. He supported the heavily injured ancestor Hanha into the air and arrived behind the ancestral Master Bingyun. However, both the Black Pole ancestor and Han were shocked when they saw the Bingyun ancestral master's pale face and the smear of blood on the corner of her lips. The Bingyun ancestral master was injured. The impact on the hearts of the Black Pole ancestor and Han was so great that they felt like the sky had collapsed. It caused their hearts to churn. With a flash, the Bingyun ancestral master returned from outer space. When she saw the blood on the corner of the Bingyun ancestral master's lips, Her face became as ugly as it could be. Something has suddenly happened in the Snow Sect. Wu Han, immediately take Shui Yunlan and leave the cavern of ice. Hide carefully. Don't let anyone discover you. Afterwards, an extremely obscure senses of the soul appeared from the Bingyan ancestral master, hiding from everyone's senses and entering the cavern of ice. Wu Han currently sat on a throne of ice within the cavern of ice. She stared at the horrible Shui Yunlan eagerly, waiting for the soul-devouring pill to take effect. At this moment, the Bingyan ancestral master's voice suddenly rang out in her head. Her stern voice immediately made Wu Han's face change drastically. The light in her eyes flickered rapidly, and without any hesitation, she immediately locked up the tortured Shui Yunlan in a divine hall. After putting on a disguise, she disguised herself as a divine king disciple of the Snow Sect and left the cavern of ice. Han Zong flew out of the Snow Sect as well. The martial soul array on him remained, radiating with powerful pulses of energy. He stood beside the Rain Abyss. The Lan ancestor returned from outer space as well, hovering in the air with He Qianqi. However, the two of them did not belong to either the Bingyun ancestral master or the Rain Abyss. Instead, they stood in a third direction, forming their own camp. The Bingyun ancestral master, Han He, the Black Pole ancestor, the Rain Abyss, Hanzong, the Lan ancestor, and He Qianqi formed three camps standing in a triangle. Chapter 3084. However, the ancestral master Bing Yin did not even glance at the Lan ancestor. It was as if she did not take the Tianhe clan seriously at all. Even the Lan ancestor was no exception. She stared at the Rain Abyss without blinking. It was as if only the Rain Abyss had the right to catch her attention among all the experts and organizations present. "Tell me your intentions. What do you want?" said the ancestral Master Bing Yin. Even though she had already been defeated, her presence did not weaken at all. She remained as cold as ever. With her intelligence, she naturally understood that the Rain Abyss visit this time was definitely not as simple as just fighting her. There had to be some sort of objective behind this. However, she had lost. The strength that the Rain Abyss had displayed shocked the ancestral Master Bing Yin. She could not help but admit that she was indeed not the Rain Abyss opponent, so she was forced to make some sort of compromise. Of course, the most important matter was that even now, the ancestral Master Bing Yin had no idea what had happened. She also did not know why the martial soul lineage, the Rain Abyss, and the Tianhe clan of the Ice Pole Plain would work together to attack the Snow Sect. The ancestral Master Bing Yin was filled with doubts. However, the ancestral Master Bing Yin, who stood beside the ancestral Master Bing Yin, was uneasy. Her eyes flickered with light. No one knew what she was thinking. The Rain Abyss said nothing in response to the ancestral Master Bing Yin's question. She remained silent the entire time. She did not reveal herself, so anyone who looked at her would find her mysterious. Coupled with the terrifying strength that the Rain Abyss had displayed when she defeated the ancestral Master Bing Yin, she became more and more unfathomable in the hearts of all the peak experts on the Ice Pole Plain. "We only want one person. Hand over Shui Yunlan." Han Zong said from beside the Rain Abyss. "Hand over Shui Yunlan? What do you mean by that?" The ancestral Master Bing Yun frowned. She was naturally not unfamiliar with the name Shui Yunlan, but she was completely confused by Han Zhang's words. Han Zhang's expression did not change. He said indifferently, "Ancestral Master Bing Yin, I don't know if you really don't know or if you're purposefully acting dumb. Shui Yunlan of the Ice Goddess Hall has been captured by the people of your Snow Sect. Your Snow Sect believed this matter to be extremely secretive, where everyone knows about it. However, it's just a pity that you can't hide the truth. We already knew about your Snow Sect's actions against Shui Yunlan." The ancestral master's reaction was extremely intense when she heard Han Zhang's words. Her gaze immediately became extremely sharp, stabbing towards Han Zhang's eyes like a sharp sword. At the same time, a tremendous presence radiated from her, causing the stars in the surroundings to dim. What did you say? Did our snow sect expel Shui Yunlan? Ancestral Master Bingyun's voice was incomparably strict, and mixed within it there was also an undisguised fury that overflowed to the heavens. Whether it was Hunzong or the Lan ancestor, they both took the frozen cloud ancestor's reaction for granted, as the two of them knew extremely well that the snow sect taking away Shui Yunlan was no small matter. The snow sect would definitely do everything they could to deny it, or even pretend that they knew nothing at all. It would be strange if they admitted to it. As a result, Hunzong and the Lan ancestor had expected the frozen cloud ancestor to act like she knew nothing. Humph, what a bunch of nonsense. Ancestral Master Bingyan snorted coldly. She glared at the Lan ancestor and said, "The Tianhe clan is scheming. They've probably joined the Flame Reverend already. Although I don't know how the Tianhe clan managed to get the martial soul lineage and the Rain Abbess of the Delight Plane to assist you, there is one thing that cannot be doubted. The Tianhe clan must be scheming something great." Ancestral Master Bingyan paused there before continuing in an icy cold voice. "It's even possible that the Tianhe clan wants our snow sect to follow in the footsteps of the Hefeng clan, to make our snow sect completely vanish from the ice pole plane. We only need to interrogate the great elder of your esteemed sect, Yu Yangxie, and we'll find out the truth," the Lan ancestor said indifferently. Ancestral Master Bingyan sneered. "Yu Yangxie is a great elder of our snow sect. His status is so great that even us ancestors have to show some respect to the great elders of our sect. If you outer sect people want our snow sect to interrogate a grand elder with just a few words, or a ridiculous excuse that can't be any more ridiculous, then what face will our snow sect have in the Ice Pole province in the future? Will our snow sect still have the right to be known as the greatest sect on the Ice Pole plane? Invite Elder Xia over. Since this matter is related to the Ice Goddess Hall, we can't afford to be careless at all. Whether it's true or false, we have to investigate carefully," the frozen cloud ancestor said, directly rejecting Ancestral Master Bingyan. At this moment, her face was expressionless, but the light in her eyes was extremely frightening. Her tone was also bone-chilling. "Ancestor Lan, we will interrogate Elder Xia. If it is really as Bingyan said that your Sky Crane clan is framing our snow sect, then I, Bingyan, swear that I will never let your Sky Crane clan off." The Lan ancestor showed no fear in the face of the frozen cloud ancestor's threat. She said calmly, "Ancestral Master Bingyan, I have already left the Tianhe clan. What I did was completely my own doing. It has nothing to do with the Tianhe clan. Otherwise, I wouldn't be the only one standing here right now. Sai, since you've personally spoken, I can only invite Elder Xia over," the frozen cloud ancestor sighed. Afterwards, she waved her hand and the laws of ice immediately condensed in the surroundings. They formed a bridge that extended into the snow sect and arrived before Yu Yangxie. Looking at the ice bridge that extended to his feet, Yu Yangxie's expression changed a few times. In the end, he made up his mind and stepped on it firmly, appearing behind the frozen cloud ancestor in a single moment. The frozen cloud ancestor turned around and stared at Yu Yangxie emotionlessly. She said, "Elder Xie, tell me the truth. Did you really capture Shui Yunlan of the Ice Goddess Hall like Ancestor Lan said? You have to tell the truth before the frozen cloud ancestor. You should know what the frozen cloud ancestor is capable of. Don't even think about fooling her." Yu Yangxie immediately paled. His body trembled violently before he dropped to his knees. He said guiltily, "I've been wronged. Ancestors, I really have been wronged. I didn't capture Shui Yunlan of the Ice Goddess Hall. If that's the case, why is the Tianhe clan so certain that you captured Shui Yunlan?" The frozen cloud ancestor continued to ask. Yu Yangxie's expression immediately changed when the frozen cloud ancestor said that. The light in his eyes flickered as if he was conflicted. A while later, Yu Yangxie seemed to make some sort of decision. Determination filled his eyes, and he suddenly pointed at Ancestor Lan. He said, "It's Ancestor Lan of the Tianhe clan. Ancestor Lan of the Tianhe clan planned all of this behind the scenes. Ancestor Lan threatened and lured me into putting on a show with the Tianhe clan. The Tianhe clan has been harboring ill intentions towards our Snow sect since a long time ago. They want to overthrow our rule. It's just that they lack an excuse, which is why they bribed me, getting me to stand forward and admit that our Snow sect captured Shui Yunlan at the crucial moment, so that the Tianhe clan can find a perfectly justifiable excuse for attacking our Snow sect. It could even allow the Tianhe clan to obtain the full support of the other organizations on the Ice Pole province when they attack our Snow sect." Yangxi's face was filled with remorse. He knelt on the ground and kowtowed. He said in a pained voice, this old man was muddle-headed. This old man didn't inform the various ancestors of this news immediately and didn't expose the Sky Crane clan's wild ambitions. This old man has sinned. This old man has sinned deeply. Various ancestors, please punish me. Yu Yangxie's words immediately caused Ancestor Lan's indifferent expression to change. Her eyes were sharp as she stared at Yu Yangxie. When she saw the regretful expression on Yu Yangxie's face, her beautiful face instantly became ugly like never before. Even He Qianqi, who was standing beside her, had a livid expression on his face. His eyes were filled with rage, as if they were about to spit fire. Chapter 3085. What a Tianhe clan! I never thought you would be so vicious. You want Yu Yangxie to cooperate with you to frame our Snow sect, fabricating a scheme of our Snow sect betraying the Ice Goddess Hull. You want our Snow sect to become the target of public criticism. Tianhe clan, you truly deserve to die. Ancestor Bing Yan was furious. He pointed at Ancestor Lan and spoke with righteous indignation. Behind him, Ancestor Han, he and Ancestor Xianji's faces were extremely sunken as well. In their opinion, the Tianhe clan was indeed riddled with holes when they tried to bribe Yu Yangxie to frame the Snow sect. There were just far too many loopholes and inexplicable areas. However, in their opinion, the Tianhe clan's combined force with the martial soul lineage and the Rain Abbess completely surpassed the Snow sect. In particular, the Rain Abbess had even defeated Ancestor Bing Yin, in a situation where they had an absolute advantage in terms of strength. If the Sky Crane clan had the intention to target the Snow sect, they would not necessarily need evidence. What they needed was just an excuse to attack. What they needed was a valid reason that could make the major forces in the Ice Pole state shut up obediently. Without a doubt, Yu Yangxie was a candidate for this. Ancestor Bing Yin said nothing. She only stared at Ancestor Lan coldly. Divination flashed through the depths of her eyes. With the ancestral Master Bing Yin's cultivation as a sixth heavenly layer Grand Prime, her ability to peer into the heavenly secrets and peer into the past and future was naturally extremely impressive. Many secrets of the world could be uncovered through her ability to peer into the heavenly secrets. In the face of absolute strength, all schemes and tricks were useless. This sentence not only described how one could defeat 10 with one strength, but also because an absolute expert could use the method of divination to dispel the thick fog formed by the layers of schemes and tricks and directly see the truth. However, in the end, Ancestral Master Bing Yin didn't manage to deduce anything because all the clues and traces related to this matter were wiped away by a pair of formless large hands. With this discovery, Ancestor Bing Yin's face became even colder. Naturally, she began to suspect Ancestor Lan, as he could indeed erase all traces with ease with his strength. In this way, even if Yu Yangxie betrayed them in the end, no expert would be able to deduce the truth behind it. Yu Yangxie, you're still trying to distort the truth even now. My martial soul lineage just happens to have a legacy secret technique called the soul-controlling technique. Are you bold enough to make me use the soul-controlling technique on you and spit out the truth before all the ancestors of your Snow sect? Han Zong said as he smiled mockingly. Humph! How can a great elder of my snow sect be controlled by your martial soul lineage so easily? Moreover, who knows whether your martial soul lineage will secretly play some dirty tricks? Ancestor Bing Yen declined flatly. He defended Yu Yangxie as much as he could the entire time. At this moment, Ancestor Bing Yin, who was standing to the side, silently took out a small bell. As the bell shook slightly, it emitted a clear tinkling sound. This was a high-grade divine artifact, the soul-sucking bell. Once the soul-sucking bell was activated, the ringing sound it produced had the ability to control one's soul. Once one was controlled by the ringing sound of the soul-sucking bell, all of their actions and thoughts would be controlled by someone else. Of course, the soul-sucking bell was not invincible. As long as one's cultivation was sufficiently great, they could resist the ringing sound of the soul-sucking bell and escape its control. With the soul-sucking bell in hand, Ancestor Bingyan appeared before Yu Yangxie in a flash. Determination filled her eyes, and she pointed the soul-sucking bell at Yu Yangxie without any hesitation. With her cultivation as a 6th heavenly layer Grand Prime, Yu Yangxie would naturally be unable to resist once she used the soul-sucking bell with his cultivation as an 8th heavenly layer chaotic prime. However, just when the Ancestor Bingyan was about to use the soul-sucking bell, Yu Yangxie's eyes suddenly widened. His entire body stiffened in a single instance. Then, streams of pitch-black blood that emitted a nauseating stench flowed out of his eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. Ancestor Lan, why, you're so vicious. Yu Yangxie's eyes widened as he pointed at Ancestor Lan with a trembling finger. In particular, Yu Yangxie's eyes were filled with undisguised hatred towards Ancestor Lan. In the next moment, Yu Yangxie's body fell straight out of the sky. His soul had dispersed and he was dead. Even before he died, his eyes were still wide open. He had died with remaining grievances. The Ancestor Bingyan's eyes were extremely cold as she was about to use the soul-sucking bell on Yu Yangxie. She reached out, and Yu Yangxie's falling corpse immediately rose into the air, hovering before the 4 ancestors of the Snow Sect. The expressions of the Ancestor Bingyan, Ancestor Bingyan, Ancestor Han He, and Ancestor Xianji became extremely ugly when they saw Yu Yangxie's corpse. This was because Yu Yangxie's body was corroding bit by bit right before their eyes, turning into pitch-black, stinking, poisonous blood. The poison was so potent that even Ancestor Han He and Ancestor Xian Ji shivered inside despite being Grand Primes. Even after Yu Yangxie died, he did not leave behind a complete corpse. That's a Dao burial pill. Ancestor Xian Ji said with a trembling voice. The reason why the Dao burial pill was called that was because the poison was so potent that it could even bury laws. It was an extremely powerful and overbearing poison pill. Even some weaker Grand Primes would end up dying tragically under the effects of the Dao burial pill. Ancestor Lan, you're so vicious. You actually used a Dao burial pill to kill a great elder of our Snow Sect. Killing intent surged in Ancestor Bingyan's eyes as he called out. The Dao burial pill is a high-grade god pill. In the vast Saints world, there are only a handful of alchemy grandmasters who can refine high-grade god pills. On our ice pole plane, you, Ancestor Lan, are the only alchemy grandmaster who can refine the Dao burial pill. Ancestor Lan, are you still going to deny it now? At this moment, all the chaotic primes and great elders of the Snow Sect rose into the air. All of them were filled with righteous indignation as they glared at each other furiously. They all called out, Tianhe clan, this debt of blood must be repaid with blood. The great elder of our Snow Sect can't have died for nothing. Ancestor, we have to avenge Elder Xia. The Tianhe clan has probably already joined the Flame Reverend. They want to destroy our ice pole plane. For a moment, Yu Yangxie's death angered all the great elders of the Snow Sect. They were all extremely agitated. Ancestor Lan's expression was very ugly. She said nothing as she hovered in the air. The attack on the Snow sect really was one wave after another. First, Yu Yangxie had bitten them back, and now Yu Yangxie had died to the Tao burial pill. She was directly blamed for Yu Yangxie's death, which immediately left Ancestor Lan speechless. It would have been fine if Yu Yangxie had bitten them back. After all, as long as Yu Yangxie was alive, there were far too many ways to prove whether he was lying or not. But now Yu Yangxie was dead, and he had died to a high-grade pill, like the Tao burial pill. She was the only alchemy grandmaster who could refine high-grade god pills on the ice pole plane. Chapter 3086. Looking at Ancestor Lan's ugly expression, Ancestral Master Bingyan couldn't help but reveal a faint smile. At the very least, from the looks of it, their Snow sect had always stood at the top of the righteous path. Ancestor Lan hadn't found any substantial weakness that could be used against them. The light in He Qianqi's eyes flickered as he stood behind the Ancestor Lan. He suddenly said, "Looks like there's only one final way to prove whether Shui Yunlan has been captured by Yu Yangxie or not now, and that's to find Shui Yunlan. As long as we find Shui Yunlan, the truth will be revealed." He Qianqi showed no fear at all before the Grand Primes present. As a matter of fact, he did not show any reverence at all. He glanced around before looking at the Snow sect. He said sternly, "If I've guessed correctly, Shui Yunlan must have been imprisoned in some secret place. It might be Yangxi's divine hall, or it might be a disciple of the Snow sect or a senior's divine hall, or it might be some unknown hidden place in the Snow sect or miniature world. That's right. All we need to do is find Shui Yunlan, and we'll find out the truth of the matter." Han Zong immediately agreed with He Qianqi's words, stopping the Ancestral Master Bingyan from turning him down sternly. Ancestral Master Bing Yan's eyes were gloomy. She didn't say anything, but an extremely obscure divine sense carefully spread out, hiding from the perception of everyone present. She sent a message to Wu Han, who was hiding in the Snow sect, in an extremely careful manner. "Immediately take Shui Yunlan and leave this place. Use the spatial teleportation scroll. Don't leave behind any traces." At this moment, Wu Han was disguised as a divine king disciple of the Snow sect. She carefully hid at the foot of a snowy mountain as she stared in the direction of the Ancestral Master Bingyan from afar. She was uneasy, as well as slightly nervous. At this moment, the Ancestral Master Bingyan's voice rang out, causing the uneasy Wu Han's face to immediately change. Without any hesitation, she immediately took out a simple teleportation scroll. This teleportation scroll was personally given to her by Ancestral Master Bingyan in order to prevent a situation like this from happening. Now it came in handy. Wu Han immediately opened the teleportation scroll, and a wave of spatial energy spread out, enveloping her as she prepared to be teleported. However, at this moment, something strange happened. The teleportation power in the surroundings suddenly became abnormally chaotic. It was as if a mysterious power had come from nowhere, tangling with the spatial power of the teleportation scroll. The sudden change immediately caused Wu Han's expression to change drastically. As a primordial realm expert, she was extremely knowledgeable. She immediately understood that an expert with extremely great mastery over the laws of space was secretly interfering with her teleportation through the power of space. Not good. Wu Han's heart sank. She subconsciously attempted to escape from the spatial power of the scroll. However, it was already too late. As the teleportation power activated, Wu Han's figure disappeared. In the sky above the Snow sect, the rain abyss was enveloped by the power of clouds and rain. She said very little. She seemed indifferent to the conflict between the Tianhe clan and the Snow sect. It was as if whether Shui Yunlan was captured by the Snow sect or not, or whether the conflict between the Tianhe clan and the Snow sect ended up being the victor, it did not pique her interest at all. However, at this moment, the space beside the rain abyss suddenly pulsed, and a disciple of the Snow sect suddenly appeared out of nowhere. He gave off the presence of the divine king realm. Naturally, he was Wu Han. Wu Han only felt her vision blur, and a few figures appeared before her. However, when she saw them clearly, her face immediately paled. In particular, the rain abbess who stood beside her and was enveloped by the power of clouds and rain. How could Wu Han not understand that it was the rain abbess who had forcefully changed the direction of the teleportation when she was teleporting? As a result, the scroll that should have taken her to a distant place ended up teleporting her out of the snow sect. Although Wu Han had disguised herself, she did not possess a mask like Jinshin's. Her disguise might have fooled chaotic primes, but it definitely could not fool experts like the Bingyun ancestral master. As a result, the Grand Primes present saw through Wu Han's disguise with a single glance and learnt her true identity. Wu Han, it's you? Why have you appeared in our snow sect? The Bingyun ancestral master cried out as her eyes widened. Even with her mental fortitude, she struggled to remain calm the moment she saw Wu Han. Her emotions fluctuated violently. Wu Han's role on the Ice Goddess plane was no longer a secret. She had betrayed the Ice Goddess Hall. So many experts who supported the Ice Goddess Hall on the Ice Goddess plane hated her to the core. The eyes of Ancestor Han, He, and Ancestor Xian Ji widened as well. The two of them stared at Wu Han in disbelief as if they had seen a ghost. Wu Han had caused an extremely small disturbance when she used the teleportation scroll, where it was almost inaudible. If they had not paid close attention, they would not have even noticed that Wu Han had used the teleportation scroll. However, when the Rain Abbess forcefully altered the power of the teleportation scroll, the Grand Primes present could clearly sense the drastic changes in space. As a result, whether it was the Bingyun ancestral master, Ancestor Han He, or Ancestor Xianji, they all knew that Wu Han had been stopped by the Rain Abbess. The Bingyun ancestral master, Ancestor Han He, and Ancestor Xianji were all deeply shocked by the fact that Wu Han was hiding in the snow sect. Only Bingyan's heart sank, and his face became extremely ugly. Wu Han, you traitor of the Ice Goddess Hall. Today, I will clean up the sect for the great Ice Goddess. Suddenly, Bingyan bellowed out and directly lunged towards Wu Han, wanting to kill her. A blue scale, condensed from energy, suddenly appeared. It shone with azure light and immediately blocked Wu Han and Bingyan's path. Bingyan, stop! At the same time, the Bingyun ancestral master called out and stopped Bingyan in a flash. At the same time, she pushed out gently with her hand, erupting with power equivalent to the 7th heavenly layer and sending Bingyan flying. A gleam of light flashed through the Rain Abbess' eyes when she saw what the Bingyun ancestral master had done. She waved her hand gently and sent Wu Han before the Bingyun ancestral master with her powers of space. She said, I'll leave this person to you. Also, there's a divine hall in her space ring. Someone's imprisoned in there. The Bingyun ancestral master's face was cold. With a casual wave of her finger, a divine hall immediately flew out of Wu Han's space ring. Afterwards, a woman with messy hair and a weak presence slowly drifted out of the divine hall under the guidance of a powerful force. Her face was extremely pale and her eyes were tightly shut. She seemed to have fainted. However, it was not difficult to tell from how her body trembled from time to time that she was clearly undergoing torture that no ordinary person could endure. When she saw this woman clearly, the aura on ancestral Master Bingyun's body instantly became abnormally chaotic. Her pair of phoenix eyes widened to the size of copper bells. She couldn't help but take a step back in the air. Her entire person seemed to have received some kind of enormous shock and suffered an intense blow. Shui Yunlan, the Bingyun ancestral master, cried out involuntarily. Her body trembled as her face became sheet white. Disbelief and shock filled her face. The moment Shui Yunlan appeared, Ancestor Lan's gaze became extremely shocked. She said coldly, Shui Yunlan really is hiding in your snow sect, and you even fed her a soul-devouring pill. Chapter 3087. W. How did this happen? Ancestor Hanha was pale, and his lips trembled slightly as he spoke. Who knew if it was because he had become so frightened after seeing Shui Yunlan's current state, or because his soul had been injured by the heaven-severing technique. As for the Black Pole forefather, he was so shocked that he couldn't speak. As Grand Primes of the Ice Pole Plane, and as ancestors of a colossal organization like the Snow Sect, they naturally knew a lot of secrets, including Shui Yunlan's existence. The reincarnation of the Snow Goddess in the Ice Goddess Hall. The great Ice Goddess had specially sent Shui Yunlan to protect the Snow Goddess. This had already become an open secret in the eyes of all the peak experts on the Ice Pole province. They also knew that as long as they found Shui Yunlan, it would be equivalent to finding the Snow Goddess. This was because, as the guide and protector of the Snow Goddess reincarnation, Shui Yunlan was the only person who knew where the Snow Goddess was. If someone was targeting Shui Yunlan at a time like this, their intentions would be as clear as day. However, at this moment, they had actually discovered Shui Yunlan in the Snow Sect, and she had even been drugged with a pill like the soul-devouring pill. This immediately frightened the ancestors of the Snow Sect and the great elders behind them. Many of them even broke out in cold sweat from fright. At this moment, Shui Yunlan seemed to show signs of waking up. Her eyelashes trembled gently, and pain and struggle filled her face. She said with a muffled voice, Don't even think about finding out Her Highness's whereabouts, even if I die, even if I suffer all torment. I will never tell you where Her Highness is." Shui Yunlan was not fully awake yet. She was in a blurry state, and her voice was like a mosquito's, soft and indistinct. But what realm were the people gathered here? They were either Grand Primes or Great Elders. As a result, all of them heard Shui Yunlan clearly. This undoubtedly caused the already ugly expressions of the crowd to become even uglier. They involuntarily looked at the people around them, and their gazes all revealed looks of suspicion. They were not fools. Their first thought was that Wu Han was able to hide in the Snow Sect, which meant that someone must have arranged everything in secret. Furthermore, this person must have quite a bit of authority. As the #1 power in the Ice Pole province, the Snow Sect was not easy to infiltrate. Wu Han. Ancestral Master Bing Yun's face was ashen. She gnashed her teeth as she chanted Wu Han's name. The hatred in her eyes was not concealed at all. In the next instant, Ancestral Master Bing Yun unhesitatingly took out the soul-sucking bell and aimed it at Wu Han. She didn't intend to waste any more time on interrogation. Instead, she directly used the soul-sucking bell to control Wu Han and force the truth out of her. Upon seeing the soul-absorbing bell, Wu Han's expression changed. She subconsciously took a step back and shouted in a threatening manner, "Ancestral Master Bing Yun, I have Senior Yen Zun behind me. Why? You can't do this to me, or the Yen Zun will never spare your Snow Sect. Your Snow Sect might be the greatest organization on the Ice Pole province, but before the Yen Zun, your so-called greatest organization is no different from paper." Ancestral Master Bing Yun snorted coldly and said frigidly, "In the past, the Ice Pole province did not have the ice gods. Our Snow Sect was indeed extremely respectful to the Yen Zun. For the sake of maintaining the Snow Sect's legacy, we did not even dare to openly destroy the Yen Zun's arrangements. As a result, we could only watch as the Yen Zun committed crimes on the Ice Pole province. However, things are different now. Since Shui Yunlan has appeared, it means that the Snow Goddess is about to return. With the Snow Goddess watching over our Ice Pole plane, why do we need to fear the flame, reverend, like we did in the past? The dark clouds that the Flame Sovereign has shrouded over our Ice Pole province are about to become a thing of the past." Ancestral Master Bing Yun's words were forceful. As soon as she finished speaking, the soul-absorbing bell in her hand appeared above Wu Han's head without giving her any chance to resist. The bell gently shook, emitting a demonic sound that shook one's mind. with Ancestor Bingyan personally controlling the soul-sucking bell. Its power was naturally extraordinary. In an instant, it controlled Wuhan. Wuhan's eyes first became empty, then became sluggish. She had completely lost her mind. Ancestor Lan, since you're a grandmaster of alchemy, you must have a way to deal with Shui Yunlan's soul-devouring pill. I'll leave Shui Yunlan to you for now. Once I investigate the truth, I'll give you an explanation, said the ancestral Master Bingyan. At that moment, she demonstrated a swift and decisive hand. With a gentle force, she delivered Shui Yunlan to the Ancestor Lan without any hesitation at all. At the same time, an illusionary kingdom of snow descended. This was the supreme kingdom of snow cast by the ancestral Master Bingyan. It immediately enveloped everyone present. In a single moment, the Rain Abbess, Hunzong, Ancestor Lan, and He Qianqi appeared in the illusionary kingdom of snow. Aside from them, there were all the great elders of the Snow Sect, as well as the 3 ancestors of the Snow Sect, Bingyan, Hanhe, and Xianji. The Rain Abbess was unfazed. She had already destroyed the supreme kingdom of snow once, so it naturally posed no threat to her. However, the expressions of the Ancestor Lan of the Qianhe clan and the ancestors and great elders of the Snow Sect changed. Among them, Ancestral Master Bingyan's reaction was the most intense. Her face was extremely sunken as she yelled at the Ancestral Master Bingyan coldly, "Bingyan, what are you doing?" "I will interrogate Wuhan and Shui Yunlan strictly. As long as they're a disciple of my Snow Sect, no matter who they are, no matter how great their status is, I will not spare anyone who betrays the Snow Sect or the Ice Goddess Hall easily. As a result, none of the disciples of the Snow Sect are allowed to leave before the matter is investigated thoroughly. As for Ancestor Lan, you don't have to worry. With the Rain Abbess here, my supreme kingdom of snow can't do anything to you," said the ancestral Master Bingyan. In the next moment, the soul-absorbing bell rang, producing a clear chime. The ancestral Master Bingyan stared straight at Wuhan and said coldly, "Wuhan, who captured Shui Yunlan?" "Elder Xie." Wuhan was stunned as she replied woodenly. Ancestral Master Bingyan's eyes turned cold, while Ancestral Master Bingyan's face sank. As for Ancestor Han, he and Ancestor Xianji, they both widened their eyes in disbelief. How is this possible? How could it be Elder Xie? The great elders behind the 4 ancestors of the Snow Sect, who had also been imprisoned in the kingdom of snow, fell into an uproar. They were all shocked. I never thought it would really be Elder Xie. However, Elder Xie is already dead, so he basically deserves it. Bingyan, in my opinion, let's just end this matter here, Ancestral Master Bingyan said to Bingyan. Ancestral Master Bingyan sent a voice transmission to Ancestral Master Bingyan. Aside from Ancestral Master Bingyan, no one else heard what she said. With Yu Yangshi's ability, it is absolutely impossible for him to erase all traces to such an extent. Speak, who is the person behind Yu Yangxie? However, Ancestral Master Bingyan turned a deaf ear to him. She expressionlessly continued to speak, killing intent rising from her body. Chapter 3088. Ancestral Master Bingyan's heart immediately sank when she saw how determined the Ancestral Master was. She needed to communicate with her secretly. "Bingyun, the outcome is already very clear. The person behind Yu Yangxie must be the Flame Reverend. With the Flame Reverend's abilities, he can indeed accomplish this easily. Although Shui Yunlan has appeared, the Snow Goddess still hasn't fully recovered. It's still not the time to offend the Flame Reverend. Bingyun, listen to me. Let's end this here, all right?" Clearly, Ancestral Master Bingyan felt guilty. She tried her best to persuade the Ancestral Master to give up on the interrogation. However, although she was one of the 2/6 Heavenly Layer Grand Primes of the Snow Sect, she was powerless to forcefully interfere or stop the Ancestral Master's actions due to the difference in strength. Ancestor Lan, He Qianqi, and Hunzong all looked at Wuhan because they knew that the person Wuhan was about to reveal next was a truly important figure. As for Yu Yangxie, he was only a chess piece at most. The Rain Abbess figure was hazy and blurry. She had never revealed herself on the ice pole plane, but even when the truth was about to be revealed, it was still possible to tell that she did not care about anything here. On the other side, the ancestral master's soul-absorbing bell hovered above Wu Han's head, producing clear chimes that stole her soul. Wu Han was unable to resist at all. She was completely controlled. It's ancestral Master Bingyan. Wu Han gritted her teeth and finally spat out Bingyan. However, ancestral Master Bingyan was already prepared. Just as Wu Han was about to speak, ancestral Master Bingyan formed hand seals with her fingers. Immediately, the wind and snow in the surroundings changed. A vast expanse of snow covered the entire region, causing Wu Han, ancestral Master Bingyan, and herself to disappear from everyone's sight. With that, not only did Hanzong, the Lawn Ancestor, and the others lose track of the three of them, but even the Snow Sect's Ancestor Han, he, the Ancestor Xianji, and the Great Elders lost track of the three of them. Not only did they lose track of them, but they also lost track of Wu Han's final words. The Ancestral Master's face was extremely sunken in the snow. She slowly turned around and stared at Bingyan emotionlessly. She said, "Why? Tell me why. Could it be that you've already defected to Yenzun?" There was no trace of guilt on ancestral Master Bingyan's face, only a deep sense of helplessness. She sighed softly and said, "Bingyan, in the Snow Sect, we sisters have been friends for millions of years. With your intelligence, you must have seen through my protection of Yu Yangxie and realized that I was the mastermind behind this matter. Why? Why must you expose everything? Could it be that the friendship between us sisters for millions of years is really so shallow? Bingyun, think about your past. You were once a member of the Ice Goddess Hall. In order to serve the Ice Goddess and Snow Goddess, you did your best. Even if you didn't contribute, you still worked hard. But what happened in the end? In the end, he was mercilessly chased out of the Ice Goddess Hall, and even suffered 100 years of painful torture. The Ice Goddess and Snow Goddess treated you like that. Now that the Ice Goddess and Snow Goddess are in trouble, they deserve it. Why must you treat your good sister, who has been with you for millions of years, like that because of a Snow Goddess who has yet to recover? Bingyun, the Snow Sect is your home. This is where you truly belong. At the same time, only I am your best sister in this world. Shut up! Ancestral Master Bingyan suddenly interrupted Bingyan. Her gaze became sharper and sharper as she said, coldly, "Bingyan, you don't understand me. That's right, I was chased out of the Ice Goddess Hall in the past, and I also suffered 100 years of torment. However, I deserve it because I committed a great mistake in the Ice Goddess Hall, angering the Ice Goddess and Snow Goddess. I deserve this punishment. Without those days in the Ice Goddess Hall, it would be impossible for me to be who I am right now. Whether it is the Ice Goddess or the Snow Goddess, they have given me a new lease of life. Their kindness is as great as a mountain. I will never be able to repay them in this lifetime." Bingyan gently shook his head. "No, Bingyun. Your achievements today are all because of your talent. It has nothing to do with the Ice Goddess Hall. Stop talking." Ancestral Master Bingyan snorted coldly. Cold killing intent appeared in her eyes. Once a disciple of the Ice Goddess Hall, I will always be a disciple of the Ice Goddess Hall. I am proud of that. Bingyan, since you have done something that is detrimental to the Snow Goddess, you are my enemy from now on. However, I am very curious. Just how much did the Flame Ancestor give you for you to commit such a heinous crime like betraying the Ice Goddess Hall? Sigh, Bingyan, you really are too stubborn. However, there is one thing that you are mistaken about. I have never thought of the Flame Ancestor. As for targeting the Snow Goddess, it was completely my own idea, said Bingyan. Why? Ancestral Master Bingyan remained expressionless, but her gaze became sharper and sharper. Because the Flame Ancestor gave me a special cultivation method. As long as I find the Snow Goddess, I can use this special cultivation method to devour the snow goddess origin energy and obtain her power. Gradually, I will replace her and become the new snow goddess. Ancestral Master Bing Yan's eyes burned with passion. There was unconcealable greed and extreme desire. Bing Yan, I have always treated you as my best sister, my only relative in the world. As long as you are with me, I am willing to offer this cultivation method so that we can absorb the snow goddess origin energy together. The ice goddess has already died in the Ice Pole province. Even if she hasn't died, the flame ancestor is secretly watching her. Therefore, as long as the two of us obtain the origin source of the snow goddess, the Ice Pole province will truly belong to the two of us. When that time comes, everything here will be decided by the two of us. Enough! Ancestor Bingyan let out a shout, and the aura on her body instantly became ruthless. A powerful killing intent was emitted from her body without the slightest concealment. She was clearly extremely furious. She appeared in front of Ancestral Master Bing Yan in a flash and directly slammed her palm towards her. At the same time, she said, Bing Yan, I never thought you would be so ambitious as to devour the snow goddess origin energy. Since that's the case, don't blame me for not showing you any mercy. Ancestral Master Bing Yan's expression changed. At the same time, she moved as well. Energy surged from her body, blocking Ancestral Master Bing Yan's attack. When the two palms collided, a deafening boom rang out. A terrifying storm of energy wreaked havoc in the illusory snow country, causing the country to tremble. The snow that Ancestral Master Bing Yan had used to conceal herself was instantly destroyed, allowing their figures to appear in front of everyone. Ancestral Master Bing Yan's face was flushed red. Her vital energy and blood surged within her as she rapidly retreated. She was at a complete disadvantage against Ancestral Master Bing Yan. Bing Yan has committed treason and betrayed the Snow Sect's mission. She has betrayed the Ice Goddess Hall and the entire Ice Pole province. Today, I, Bing Yan, will clean up the sect. Ancestral Master Bing Yan's voice rang out throughout the illusory divine kingdom. She was resolute and decisive as she announced this in front of all the great elders of the Snow Sect. Chapter 3089. When the Bingyun Ancestral Master's voice rang out, Ancestor Lan and He Qian Qi from the Tianhe clan were surprised. The light in their eyes flickered, and they remained doubtful. At this moment, the Bingyun Ancestral Master had already struck out. She launched her most vicious attacks at the Bingyun Ancestral Master mercilessly. She wielded a sword of ice, which gave off the might of a high-quality god artifact. She directly swung it towards the Bingyun Ancestral Master with surging energy. Bingyun, do you really want to do this? Is it really worth it? The Bingyun Ancestral Master said painfully. She seemed utterly disappointed in the Bingyun Ancestral Master, as if she was a weak woman who had been betrayed. She was pitiful. However, there was great reluctance and resentment hidden in the depths of her eyes. Naturally, the Bingyun Ancestral Master would not just stand there and do nothing. She erupted with her cultivation as a sixth heavenly layer Grand Prime without holding back at all, desperately blocking the attack. She was also wielding a high-grade divine artifact, an ice longsword. As she swung the long sword, a terrifying chill seemed to be able to freeze even the space around her. Ding! The Bingyun Ancestral Master and the Bingyun Ancestral Master's sword collided. With a great boom, the Bingyun Ancestral Master was immediately knocked back. Although they were both at the sixth heavenly layer, their battle prowess was worlds apart. Suddenly, Ancestral Master Bingyun's figure disappeared, as if she had perfectly merged with this illusory country of snow. In the next moment, four enormous figures quietly appeared in the midst of the snow that filled the sky. They were 4 divine ice generals. Every single one of them radiated with the presences of 6th heavenly layer Grand Primes. They all pointed their spears at the Bingyun Ancestral Master and launched shocking attacks. Immediately, A terrifying storm of energy flooded the region, making it impossible to see the Bingyun ancestral master's figure. After a few earth-shaking booms, the Bingyun ancestral master was blown away, covered in blood. She landed on the icy ground in an extremely horrible shape. Cough, cough! The Bingyun ancestral master constantly coughed up blood. Her face was sickly pale, and she seemed weak. She had already been heavily injured. A fist-sized hole had appeared where her heart was on her luxurious dress that had been dyed red with blood. She was unable to block the attacks from the 4 divine ice generals as easily as the Rain Abbess. She only managed to block 3 of them as hard as she could. She was powerless against the 4th attack, and the spear pierced her heart mercilessly. After all, she was basically being attacked by 4 experts of the same level. Without the ability to fight, it was almost impossible for her to take on 4 heavenly layers of light. In the midst of the flying snow, the hazy figures of the 4 divine ice generals disappeared, and the figure of ancestral Master Bingyun appeared. Her feet didn't touch the ground. She floated 3 feet in the air and stared coldly at Ancestor Bingyun. She said coldly, "Bingyun, you betrayed the Snow Sect and the Ice Goddess Hall. Do you know your crime?" At that moment, Ancestral Master Bingyun truly resembled an undefeatable god of war. Even though they were both at the 6th heavenly layer, she had defeated Ancestral Master Bingyun without expending much effort. If it were not for the fact that she had encountered the even more terrifying and powerful Rain Abbess today, the Bingyun Ancestral Master really would have been able to reign supreme on the ice pole plane with her beauty. All the members of the upper echelon of the Snow Sect revealed mixed feelings as they watched the heavily injured Bingyun Ancestral Master collapse on the ground. Ancestor Lan, He Qianqi, and Han Zong fell silent as well. As for Shui Yunlan, who was suffering from the soul-devouring pill, the Ancestor Lan did everything he could to save her. With the Ancestor Lan's attainments in pills and his great cultivation, it was not too difficult for him to remove the soul-devouring pill from Shui Yunlan. The Bingyun Ancestral Master looked at the Rain Abbess, who watched silently from one side, as well as the experts of the Snow Sect, who had basically witnessed the entire thing. She knew that there was no turning back now that the situation had developed like this. This was because what she had done was not known by everyone, but it was close enough. It was for no other reason than the Rain Abbess here. She could still restrain the people of the Snow Sect. She was confident in keeping the Ancestor Lan of the Tianhe clan and Han Zong of the martial soul lineage here. Only the Rain Abbess, who was even more powerful than the Bingyun Ancestral Master, truly made everyone fear her. The Bingyun Ancestral Master had exposed her before the Rain Abbess. Clearly, she was willing to sacrifice her family for the sake of the Ice Goddess Hall. The Bingyun Ancestral Master smiled. Her smile was very poignant. She said, "Bingyun, to think that I treated you as the best sister in my life, to think that I treated you as the closest person in the world. I just never thought that our sisterhood, which has lasted for millions of years, couldn't even compare to the Ice Goddess Hall that chased you out and tortured you for a century. Whatever. I don't want to say anything more now that things have developed like this. Bingyun, how do you want to deal with me?" "Just do it." The Bingyun Ancestral Master closed her eyes as if she had accepted her fate. She was waiting for her fate. This was because she knew that it was impossible for her to escape from the supreme ability of the Snow Kingdom unless she destroyed the illusionary kingdom. Whatever. Bingyun won't kill me, because once I die, it'll affect the Snow Sect far too greatly. She'll only imprison me, and I'll still have a chance to escape, thought the Bingyun Ancestral Master. She knew that the Bingyun Ancestral Master had always been working hard to break through the final barrier in an attempt to reach the 7th heavenly layer. Under such circumstances, she did not have the energy to protect herself. She still had many people she trusted in the Snow Sect, so she still had hope of escaping. Suddenly, there was a flash of light. The Bingyun Ancestral Master swung her sword and beheaded the Bingyun Ancestral Master without any hesitation. At the same time, terrifying coldness permeated the area, freezing the Bingyun ancestral master's body in a single instance. In the next instant, ancestral master Bingyun's body that had turned into ice shattered into countless ice shards amidst a series of cracking sounds. It was not just her body. Even her head shattered. Bingyun, you're so ruthless. You actually destroyed my body. The Bingyun ancestral master's origin spirit appeared. Her expression was filled with monstrous fury as she furiously roared at the Bingyun ancestral master. With her body destroyed, she would lose all of her cultivation. Her battle prowess would drop drastically. With only her origin spirit, it would undoubtedly make her extremely weak. The Bingyun ancestral master did not say anything. The space ring on the Bingyun ancestral master's finger suddenly appeared on her palm. An ink-black jade flew out from within. The moment the ink-black jade appeared, a origin spirit belonging to you, Yangxie, immediately appeared. It was very dim, not even 1% of its peak state. Ancestor, how are things going? Have you successfully passed the crisis? Yu Yangxie's origin spirit immediately spoke the moment it appeared. Chapter 3090. Elder Xia, why? You're actually still alive. This is the soul-hoarding jade. I understand now. As it turns out, Elder Xia being poisoned by the Dao burial poison pill was all part of their plan. They wanted to frame the Tianhe clan so that there would be no witnesses in the end. That way, the Tianhe clan wouldn't be able to clear their name. In reality, Elder Xia had hidden his soul in the soul-hoarding jade beforehand. As it turns out, Elder Xia, who died to the Dao burial poison pill, was only a portion of his soul. Fortunately, we found Wu Han in time, or the truth would have been sealed away forever. Sigh, I never thought that our Snow sect would encounter something like this. What a misfortune for the sect. A misfortune for the sect. Behind them, the many great elders of the Snow sect who had witnessed this scene with their own eyes sighed one after another. Their faces were filled with disappointment. This was because they understood that even though ancestral Master Bingyan was still alive, her actions had been exposed. Without a doubt, she had been sentenced to death. She was a 6th Heavenly Layer Grand Prime. In just a single day, the Snow sect had lost a great figure. This was quite a heavy blow to the Snow sect. As for Ancestor Han, he could no longer care about his enmity towards the martial soul lineage. His soul was heavily injured, so he endured the stabbing pain. He stared at ancestral Master Bingyan's soul with Ancestor Xianji. Undisguised sorrow and sorrow filled his face. Bingyan, why? You've disappointed me far too much. Ancestral Master Bingyan's soul said reluctantly. Her gaze towards the Bingyun ancestral master gradually became filled with hatred and resentment. The Bingyun ancestral master did not feel guilty at all. She was magnanimous and righteous. Since Shui Yunlan has already appeared, Her Majesty the Snow Goddess will definitely return before long. Bingyan, your actions cannot be tolerated by the Snow sect. I will personally imprison you, and when Her Majesty the Snow Goddess returns, she will personally execute you. With that, ancestral Master Bingyun formed a seal with her hand. Immediately, a cage of ice silently appeared, instantly sealing up ancestral Master Bingyun's soul. As for Yu Yangxie's primordial spirit, it was directly destroyed in the illusory Snow Country. The soul-accumulating jade that was used to nourish his primordial spirit also shattered into pieces of ice. Ancestral Master Bingyun stowed away ancestral Master Bingyun's soul before glancing past the great elders of the Snow sect. Her sharp gaze paused on a few of them for a while before she turned her attention to Shui Yunlan in the end. Under Ancestor Land's treatment, Shui Yunlan successfully broke free from the soul-devouring pill's effects. She completely woke up, and even her wounds gradually recovered after Ancestor Lan fed her a few healing pills. As soon as she opened her eyes, Shui Yunlan discovered the many experts gathered in the surroundings. However, she was stupefied and her eyes were gloomy, filled with despair and the intent to die. Don't even think about finding out His Highness' whereabouts for me. Shui Yunlan smiled bitterly. Determination filled her eyes, and she began to burn her soul without any hesitation. She knew that, with her strength, the peak experts had plenty of ways to make her talk. This was the only way to protect where His Highness was hiding. Shui Yunlan, we've come to save you. Ancestor Lan seemed to be prepared. She gently extended a finger toward Shui Yunlan's forehead, and a gentle power immediately sealed up all of Shui Yunlan's energy, preventing her from committing suicide. Shui Yunlan, I am Ancestral Master Bingyun of the Snow Sect. What happened before was because Ancestral Master Bingyun of our Snow Sect had gone against the law and betrayed the Ice Goddess Hull. Ancestral Master Bingyun's body has been destroyed, and her soul has been sealed up. She will be executed when His Highness the Snow Goddess returns. Our entire Snow Sect is willing to go through hell for His Highness the Snow Goddess, so you can completely trust us, said Ancestral Master Bingyun. Shui Yunlan, you were imprisoned in the Snow Sect. It was our Tianhe clan, the martial soul lineage, and the Rain Abbess who saved you. As a result, you need to understand that our Tianhe clan has never betrayed the Ice Goddess Hall, added Ancestor Lan. Shui Yunlan was unfazed. She looked at the hazy, illusionary kingdom and said coldly, "This is the Ice Goddess Hall's unparalleled kingdom of snow. Once the technique is unleashed, it'll form a world of its own. Once trapped by the unparalleled kingdom of snow, it'll be impossible for you to escape unless you possess the strength to destroy it. You keep saying that you're willing to go through hell for His Highness the Snow Goddess, but in the end, you've trapped me in this unparalleled kingdom of snow. Isn't that far too laughable? This unparalleled kingdom of snow was specially prepared to prevent information from leaking out when interrogating Wuhan and investigating the truth, as well as prevent certain people from using this opportunity to escape. Now that everything has come to light, there's naturally no need to maintain this unparalleled kingdom of snow, said Ancestral Master Bingyun. She immediately removed the unparalleled kingdom of snow. Immediately, the world cleared up, and the Snow Sect below appeared before everyone's eyes again. However, the Snow Sect was in a mess right now. Although the unparalleled kingdom of snow had been removed, Shui Yunlan's expression did not change at all. Clearly, she did not trust anyone. She said coldly, "Let me leave." No. As soon as Shui Yunlan said that, Ancestor Lan and Ancestral Master Bingyun immediately objected. Ancestral Master Bingyun said sincerely, "Shui Yunlan, all the experts of the entire Ice Pole province know of your existence now. Who knows how many organizations under the Flame Reverend's control are still lurking in the Ice Pole province. If you leave, you'll be in extremely dangerous situations. Shui Yunlan, Ancestral Master Bingyun is right. You definitely can't leave by yourself at a time like this, or once you end up in the Flame Reverend's hands, the safety of Her Highness will be severely threatened," said Ancestor Lan. "Fantastic. Shui Yunlan, you've finally returned." At this moment, an old voice rang out. An old man in snow-white robes suddenly appeared outside the Snow Sect. All the experts on the Ice Pole Plain were familiar with this old man because he was the ancestor of the second-ranked organization on the Ice Pole Plain, the Frigid Wind Sect Qifeng. Qifeng was the strongest ancestor of the Frigid Wind Sect. His status in the Frigid Wind Sect was equivalent to Ancestral Master Bingyun of the Snow Sect and Ancestor Lan of the Tianhe clan. He was a 6th Heavenly Layer Grand Prime and was known as the Wind Ancestor. At this moment, all the ancestors who ranked in the top 3 on the Ice Pole Plain had gathered outside the Snow Sect. They had all appeared because of a single person, which was Shui Yunlan. At that moment, Shui Yunlan was like a moon surrounded by stars. She became a dazzling star. Ancestor Qifeng began to communicate with Shui Yunlan secretly. Shui Yunlan, our frigid wind sect, has always been loyal to the ice goddess Hall. In the past, we even took great risks to save Kaixia, who was on the brink of death, right under the flame reverend's nose before secretly bringing her back to the frigid wind sect. In reality, Kaixia, who was one of the 4 great protectors in the past, has always been secretly cultivating in our frigid wind sect. She also has some important information about the ice goddess Hall on her. She said that she wouldn't tell anyone other than you and Bing Qin. It's just a pity that Bing Qin has already passed away. Ancestor Qi Feng sighed. His face was filled with helplessness. He continued, Shui Yunlan, the old man knew you would be suspicious, so Kaixia specially asked the old man to give this jade slip to you. Kaixia seems to have something extremely important to tell you, so she's in a hurry to see you. With a flick of his finger, a jade slip immediately appeared before Shui Yunlan. Shui Yunlan hesitated when she saw the jade slip, but she made up her mind in the end and accepted it. In the next moment, Kaixia's familiar figure and excited and eager voice appeared in Shui Yunlan's head. Shui Yunlan, you can't trust either the Snow Sect or the Tianhe clan. Only the Frigid Wind Sect is trustworthy on the Ice Pole Plain right now. Come to the Frigid Wind Sect with Senior Qi Feng. I have extremely important information to tell you. Chapter 3091. Ancestor Qi Feng was relieved when he heard that. He said emotionally, of the 4 protectors of the Ice Goddess Hall in the past, Wu Han has betrayed us and Bing Qin has died. Only you and Kaixia remain. In fact, during the years you were missing, Kaixia often missed you. She had been waiting bitterly in our Cold Wind sect for millions of years, and now her efforts have finally paid off. She has finally waited for your return, and you 2 sisters can finally be reunited. Shui Yunlan's eyes rippled when she heard that. She could not help but reminisce about the past. In the past, the 4 of them were so close. They helped and supported each other as if they were sisters by blood. Now, of the 4 sisters who were as close as brothers, 1 had fallen and 1 had betrayed them. In the end, only she and Kaixia were left. The series of events filled Shui Yunlan's heart with sorrow. Shui Yunlan sighed inside and immediately approached Ancestor Qi Feng of her own accord. Ancestor Qi Feng smiled benevolently. He was like a kind old man who was watching his child return after being away for many years. However, Ancestor Qi Feng had secretly used a secret method to send a message to Cold Wind Sect in a very subtle way. The plan is a success. Quickly prepare the teleportation formation in the Forbidden Grounds. Once Shui Yunlan arrives at the Cold Wind Sect, immediately send her away through the teleportation formation. Ancestor Qi Feng directly sent this news to the 2 other Grand Primes of the Frigid Wind Sect. The 2 Grand Primes who remained behind at the Cold Wind Sect also paid close attention to the situation of the Snow Sect. As soon as they heard Ancestor Qi Feng's message, the 2 of them immediately roused. They looked at each other, and joy filled their eyes. Let's go. In the next moment, the 2 Grand Primes vanished. They appeared in the Forbidden Grounds of the Cold Wind Sect as quickly as they could. The Forbidden Grounds were not completely empty. Aside from the 2 Grand Primes, there was a beautiful woman in a white dress. If Shui Yunlan were here, she would definitely have discovered that this woman was one of the 4 protectors of the Ice Goddess Hall in the past, Kaixia. Greetings to the 2 Grand Primes. However, Kaixia immediately bowed when she saw the 2 Grand Primes of the Cold Wind Sect. Her respect came from the bottom of her heart. She did not disguise it at all. Shui Yunlan is about to arrive at the Cold Wind Sect. Elder Z, in order to gain Shui Yunlan's trust and make her lower her guard, we need you to personally appear. Be prepared. One of the Grand Primes of the Cold Wind Sect said sternly. You can't make any mistakes at a crucial time like this. Elder Z, you have to remember Kaixia's words and actions. You can't give yourself away at all. After all, Ancestor Lan of the Tianhe clan and the founding Ancestor Bingyun of the Snow Sect are watching over her. Aside from them, there's also the Rain Abbess, whose strength is unimaginable. Therefore, we cannot allow any accidents to happen. Otherwise, not to mention our Cold Wind Sect, even the few of us will fall into eternal damnation. Another ancestor of the Cold Wind Sect said in a deep voice, his expression solemn. Kai Xia was stern. She said confidently, "Please don't worry, ancestors. I definitely didn't just obtain a shell of Kai Xia's when I possessed her. At the same time, I devoured her soul and fused with all of Kai Xia's memories perfectly. Bewitching Shui Yunlan is a piece of cake. That's for the best. We don't have to worry then." The two grand primes of the Cold Wind Sect nodded happily. Then they looked at the forbidden grounds and said, "Now that there's no problem with bewitching Shui Yunlan, the greatest challenge is casting down the teleportation formation here. The Rain Abbess has extremely great attainments in the laws of space, so I hope the teleportation formation here works." The other grand primes of the ancient paths laughed involuntarily when he heard that. "You don't have to worry about that. The teleportation formation disk here came from the Grand Exalt of Ancient Paths after all. Even though it was only a product of the Grand Exalt of Ancient Paths' interest, it still touches on that level after all. At that level, the Rain Abbess laws of space can't interfere with its mysteries. Once Qi Feng arrives with Shui Yunlan, we'll immediately activate the teleportation formation and leave. Even if the Rain Abbess and the Ancestor Bingyun are present, they won't be able to stop us. As for the Cold Wind Sect, so be it. Once we obtain the origin energy of the Snow Goddess, we'll definitely return. That's right. When we return next time, we'll definitely shine brilliantly. At that time, we'll establish an even more powerful Cold Wind Sect. Moreover, if His Majesty the Flame Reverend's plan succeeds, he'll definitely become a new Grand Exalt. At that time, with the Sovereign of the world behind us, we'll truly reign over the ice pole plain and sweep through all obstructions. Aye, you can't. Shui Yunlan, we don't know if the Cold Wind Sect is a friend or foe right now. You can't go to the Cold Wind Sect, the Ancestor Bingyun said from above the Snow Sect, stopping Shui Yunlan from approaching Ancestor Qi Feng. At the same time, she radiated with a powerful presence, pressuring Ancestor Qi Feng. She said to him coldly, "Qi Feng, leave immediately, or don't blame me for being merciless." The Ancestor Qi Feng clearly feared the Ancestor Bingyun's forcefulness. However, as soon as he thought about the great fortuitous encounter hidden behind this matter, his heart burned with passion. Afterwards, he became bolder as well. He forcefully withstood the pressure from the Ancestor Bingyun and growled, "Ancestor Bingyun, don't try to pressure me with your power. You're clearly acting like you're guilty, so it's clear that your Snow Sect is harboring ill intentions. At the same time, we can't eliminate the possibility that your Snow Sect has purposefully put on a show earlier in order to win Shui Yunlan's trust. Shui Yunlan, come over quickly. If anyone tries to stop you, they must be on the Flame Reverend side. As for our Cold Wind Sect, even if you don't trust the old man, you must trust your good sister." The Ancestor Qi Feng then said to Shui Yunlan. The light in Shui Yunlan's eyes flickered. She glanced past the three parties present. Compared to the Snow Sect and Tianhe clan, she clearly leaned towards the Cold Wind Sect more. This was because the jade slip the Ancestor Qi Feng had given her was indeed Caisha's image. Whether it was her tone, bearing, or expression, it was exactly the same as Caisha's. It could not be faked. Snow Sect, Tianhe clan, if you really haven't betrayed the Ice Goddess Hall, then you have no right to stop me, Shui Yunlan said. She was determined as she slowly made her way towards the Ancestor Qi Feng. The Ancestor Bingyun's expression changed slightly. She wanted to forcefully stop her, but when she thought about what Shui Yunlan had said, she immediately dismissed that thought. Her face sank. "Shui Yunlan, can you listen to me? I won't interfere with whether you stay or leave in the future, the ancestor lawn suddenly said. With that, she waved her hand and cast down a soundproof barrier. There were only 3 people in the barrier. Aside from herself and Shui Yunlan, there was only He Qianqi. As soon as the soundproof barrier was formed, Shui Yunlan heard a voice that she could not be more familiar with. Protector Shui, I'm Jianqin. I'm currently with the Tianhe clan. Remember, you can't expose my true identity. Don't make any strange expressions either. Come to the Tianhe clan. Chapter 3092. Immediately, Shui Yunlan stopped moving towards the ancestor. However, she obeyed Jianqin's orders and did not show too much of an odd expression. Instead, she secretly sucked in a deep breath to slowly calm her excitement. Shui Yunlan, come over quickly. Your good sister Kaixia has already been waiting for you in our Cold Wind sect for several million years. She's eager to see you. The ancestor continued to smile kindly. He seemed so amiable, as if he was harmless. The Rain Abbess, Ancestral Master Bingyan, and Ancestor Lan were watching nearby, so the ancestor was afraid of taking action. He was not bold enough to take Shui Yunlan away by force, nor was he bold enough to do anything too extreme. As a result, even though he was extremely anxious, he could only wait helplessly for Shui Yunlan to come over. However, in the next moment, the smile on Ancestor Qi Feng's face suddenly froze, as Shui Yunlan had actually done something that surprised both him and Ancestral Master Bingyan. She had actually given up on going to Ancestor Qi Feng's side and turned to the Tianhe clan's side, arriving by Ancestor Lan's side instantly. When Shui Yunlan was near Ancestor Qi Feng in the past, she had walked through the air slowly. Even though she had chosen Ancestor Qi Feng's side because of the rosy clouds, she was not decisive. She was still hesitant. However, when she chose to believe in Ancestor Lan and the Tianhe clan, she did not hesitate at all. She was extremely decisive. Shui Yunlan's unexpected actions immediately made the Ancestral Master Bingyun's eyes narrow. However, she said nothing. Instead, she glanced at Ancestor Lan deeply and glanced at He Qianqi behind him. She seemed to be in thought. Shui Yunlan, W, what are you doing? However, the ancestor began to panic. He widened his eyes and stared at Shui Yunlan in great surprise. His heart had risen to his throat. Senior Qi Feng, please tell Kaixia that it's not convenient for me to meet her for now. Now that Her Majesty the Snow Goddess has returned, we sisters will meet sooner or later, Shui Yunlan said to the ancestor firmly. Clearly, she had made up her mind. How could that be? How could that be? Shui Yunlan, only our Cold Wind sect is the most trustworthy in the Ice Pole province. Although I don't know what the Tianhe clan told you to make you change your mind, it's more likely that this is a trap set by the Flame Supremacy. At that moment, his heart truly burned with anxiety. He had just gained Shui Yunlan's trust, and his plan was about to succeed. But he never thought that Shui Yunlan would suddenly change her mind at such a crucial moment. How could he accept this? I believe in the Tianhe clan, Shui Yunlan said firmly. Ancestor Qi Feng, please return. Our Tianhe clan will protect Shui Yunlan, Ancestor Lan said. His attitude was cold. Ancestral Master Bing Yin also turned her gaze towards Ancestor Qi Feng. Although she didn't speak, an invisible pressure had already enveloped Ancestor Qi Feng. Now that things had developed like this, Ancestor Qi Feng knew that he was powerless to change anything. All he could do was sigh gently and say in pity, "If that's the case, old man won't force you. However, your good sister who has been waiting for you for several million years will have to suffer. However, Shui Yunlan, old man still hopes that you can find some time to visit the Cold Wind sect. Senior Qi Feng, why don't you get Kaixia to come find me herself?" Shui Yunlan replied with a question. Ancestor Qi Feng let out a long sigh. Isn't it all because of Wu Han's betrayal? That was just too great of a blow to Kaixia. Coupled with the fact that there are many organizations in the Ice Pole province right now, it's unclear whether they're friends or foes. Perhaps one of the organizations she comes into contact with just happens to be under the Flame Supremacy's command. As a result, Kaisia can't trust anyone apart from the Cold Wind sect. At the same time, she has never left our Cold Wind sect in the past several million years. Ancestor Qi Feng paused when he reached there. He glanced at Shui Yunlan deeply before continuing. Actually, Kaisia's presence in our Cold Wind sect has always been a secret that no one in the Ice Pole province knows about. If it weren't for your appearance, Kaisia's secret in our Cold Wind sect would never have been exposed. It's just a pity that she was disappointed in the end. With that, Ancestor Qi Feng stopped trying to persuade her. He turned around and left. Shui Yunlan saw the disappointment on Ancestor Qi Feng's face, which made her struggle slightly. After several million years, she really did want to see her sister of the past. However, since Genshin had come here, her rationality told her that even if Kaisia really did have extremely important information to tell her right now, even if she really wanted to reunite with Kaisia very urgently, she needed to temporarily put this matter to the back of her mind. This was because she had absolute trust in Genshin. At this moment, a barrier of ice appeared silently. Not only did the barrier cut off all sound, but it even blocked off everything inside. It was impossible to see anything from the outside. Only the Bingyun Ancestral Master, Ancestor Lan He Qianqi, and Shui Yunlan were in the barrier. Who are you? The Bingyun Ancestral Master glanced past the Ancestor Lan and directly looked at He Qianqi, who stood behind her. Junior is the great elder of the Tianhe clan, He Qianqi. Greetings to the Bingyun Ancestral Master. He Qianqi clasped his fist and said politely, No, you're not He Qianqi. Although I'm not familiar with He Qianqi, I do know about his existence. Even though he's a chaotic prime, he definitely won't be able to remain as composed as you before Grand Primes. Moreover, the Tianhe clan has never had any dealings with the martial soul lineage, while the martial soul lineage has nothing to do with the Ice Goddess Hull. As a result, it's impossible for the martial soul lineage to work with the Tianhe clan this time. The Bingyun Ancestral Master stared at He Qianqi without blinking at all. Her piercing gaze seemed to be able to see through He Qianqi completely. Unfortunately, no matter how she studied him, the He Qianqi before her was still the same He Qianqi. She was unable to find any flaws at all. And Shui Yunlan's sudden change of mind towards the end, where she stood on your Tianhe clan's side so decisively, seemed strange to me as well. If I've guessed correctly, it's all because of you. Lastly, Ancestor Lan had already come to our snow sect prepared for battle. Even if she didn't bring the other two ancestors of the Tianhe clan, she should have brought a 9th heavenly layer chaotic prime at the very least. However, she just happened to bring a great elder with mediocre strength. That seems to explain something. Chapter 3093. He Qianqi fell silent in response to the Ancestral Master's question. A while later, he seemed to have finally made some sort of decision. He sighed gently and said, Since Ancestral Master Bingyun wants to know my identity so much, I won't hide it from you anymore. As he spoke, He Qianqi's appearance changed. He changed from an old man with white hair and a ruddy complexion to a young man. It was not just his appearance. Even his presence had undergone an overwhelming change. Right now, he did not seem to possess any of He Qianqi's characteristics at all. What a great disguise! Even I can't see through it at all. The Ancestral Master could not help but sigh from the bottom of her heart as she watched He Qianqi turn into a complete stranger. Her eyes were filled with undisguised surprise. Junior, Genshin greets Ancestral Master Bingyun. Genshin clasped his fist at the Ancestral Master after recovering his original appearance. Although he was respectful, he was neither haughty nor humble. The Ancestral Master Bingyun ignored Genshin. She had been in seclusion for many years in the Snow Sect, so she did not know anything about Genshin. Instead, She looked at Shui Yunlan and said, Shui Yunlan, is this the person you trust? You need to understand that your safety is directly linked to the safety of the snow goddess. How can you trust a stranger so easily? Shui Yunlan clasped her fist. Thank you for your reminder, Senior Bingyan. However, if there's anyone in the current Saints world worthy of Shui Yunlan's unconditional trust, it's only Jianqin. The ancestral master Bingyan frowned and asked sternly, Why? Shui Yunlan glanced at Ancestor Lan of the Tianhe clan. After hesitating slightly, she said, Because Jianqin is the younger brother of the snow goddess. Shui Yunlan's words were no different from a bolt from the blue in the Bingyun ancestral master's head. Even with the Bingyun ancestral master's mental fortitude, she could not help but be shaken up. Her heart churned. What did you say? He's the younger brother of the snow goddess? The ancestral master Bingyun cried out involuntarily. Shock and disbelief filled her icy cold eyes. That's right. Jianqin is indeed the younger brother of the snow goddess, even though he's only a relative of her reincarnated body. Jianqin is the only person worthy of my trust in the current world, Shui Yunlan said with certainty. After all, she had witnessed Jianqin's growth on the Tianyuan continent. She even knew Jianqin's greatest secret. It was because at that time she was an omnipotent divine king. She was high up above, looking down on everything. With a flip of her hand, she could destroy the entire world, possessing heaven overflowing might. Jianqin of sainthood and origin realm cultivators. To Shui Yunlan, to him, to her, to of the time of the snow of the Saint Bingyun of the saint back then. As a result, Shui Yunlan was without a doubt one of the people who understood Jianqin the best. At that moment, the ancestral master Bingyun only felt like she had been thrown into disarray. Her entire worldview had collapsed. The news of Jianqin being the younger brother of the snow goddess had impacted the ancestral master Bingyun so much that it had completely surpassed the ancestor lands. After all, she had once been a member of the ice goddess hall, and she had personally served the snow goddess. Her respect and fear for the snow goddess was far greater than the ancestor lands. Although she had already been chased out of the ice goddess hall and was no longer a member of the ice goddess hall, the ancestral master Bingyun was still loyal to the two ice goddesses. She had always viewed them as her master. She viewed the snow goddess as her master. Yet now her master suddenly had a younger brother. Just how was she supposed to treat her master's younger brother? The ancestral master Bingyun felt both conflicted and troubled. Ancestral master Bingyun, are you satisfied with this outcome? You should believe me now, right? Jianqin clasped his fist. The ancestral master Bingyun said nothing. She only stared at Jianqin with an extremely mixed gaze. The mental impact of Jianqin's identity was just too great. She needed some time to digest it. Only after quite a while did the ancestral master Bingyun slowly calm down. However, the gaze she used to look at Jianqin had undergone an overwhelming change. There was no longer the coldness that kept people at arm's length in her gaze. There was only heavy, mixed emotions mixed in with a sense of peace. In the eyes of the ancestral master Bingyun, Jianqin's strength was nothing, but his identity as the snow goddess younger brother was extremely intimidating to the ancestral master Bingyun. I never thought you would actually be the snow goddess younger brother. With your identity, I obviously have no right to stop you from doing anything. However, there is one thing that I hope you can do as soon as possible, and that is for the snow goddess to return as soon as possible, the ancestral master Bingyun said to Jianqin. Right now, she was like an iceberg that had melted. Even her tone had changed. She was no longer arrogant, nor was she condescending. Instead, she spoke to Jianqin in a peaceful, even negotiating tone. She did not question the authenticity of Jianqin's identity either, as Shui Yunlan was the best evidence. There's no need for ancestral master Bingyun to tell me that. I understand the situation on the ice pole plane a little too. I will obviously do everything I can to help second sister recover her peak strength as soon as possible, Jianqin swore. Afterwards, the ancestral master Bingyan no longer interfered with Shui Yunlan's actions. She allowed her to follow Jianqin to the Tianhe clan side. With the disappearance of the soundproof barrier, the ancestral master Bingyan, Shui Yunlan, Ancestor Lan, and Jianqin appeared before everyone once again. Jianqin had disguised himself as He Qianqi again and appeared before everyone. Only a few people knew his true identity. Let our snow sect watch over the ice goddess halls, Wuhan, for now. Once Her Majesty the Snow Goddess returns, she'll decide whether Wuhan lives or dies. However, she must return as soon as possible. This is because Bingyan is a hidden blade that the Flame Reverend left behind on the ice pole plain long ago, a hidden blade specially used against the Snow Goddess. Now that Bingyan's hidden blade has been removed, the Flame Reverend might personally take action now that there's no one else he can use. That's because he also understands that once Her Majesty the Snow Goddess truly recovers, his entire plan on the ice pole plain will fail completely, said the ancestral Master Bingyan. As soon as she mentioned the Flame Reverend, she became slightly worried. Ancestor Lan became stern when he heard the Flame Reverend's name. Now, the battle that had shaken up the entire ice pole plain finally came to an end. In the end, one of the 4 ancestors of the Snow Sect, Ancestor Bingyan, had died. The death of a 6th Heavenly Layer Grand Prime was definitely a major matter on the ice pole plain. However, no one on the ice pole plain discussed the death of the Snow Sect's Grand Prime. Everyone's attention was focused on Shui Yunlan. This was because they all understood that Shui Yunlan's appearance meant that the Snow Goddess was close to returning. The death of a Grand Prime of the Snow Sect was a major matter, but it was nothing compared to the Snow Goddess' return. The experts gathered outside the Snow Sect all dispersed. Hanzong and Shui Yunlan of the Martial Soul lineage visited the Tianhe clan together, while the Rain Abbess vanished. No one knew where she had gone. As for the Snow Sect, they sealed up their entrance. Ancestor Bingyan held the soul-absorbing bell and began to tidy up the Snow Sect with lightning speed. She executed many of the chaotic prime great elders and ordinary infinite prime elders in the sect. The Snow Sect had suffered heavy losses. However, as long as the ancestral Master Bingyan was present, the Snow Sect would be able to remain as the most powerful sect on the ice pole plain. Ancestor Qi Feng and the other 2 Grand Primes gathered in the forbidden grounds of the Cold Wind sect. They were filled with deep regret and reluctance. Shui Yunlan has already gone to the Tianhe clan. Ancestor Qi, is our plan going to fail just like that? An ancestor of the Cold Wind sect asked. He was rather dejected. Ancestor Qi Feng shook his head. No, we haven't failed. As long as Kaixia is in our Cold Wind sect, Shui Yunlan will come sooner or later. Once Shui Yunlan comes to our Cold Wind sect, she won't be able to do anything anymore. At the same time, in the Snow Empire's imperial city under the jurisdiction of the Snow Sect, in a luxurious mansion covered in white snow, a young man and woman were sitting opposite each other, leisurely playing chess. From the presences they gave off, they were not particularly powerful. They were only at the peak of the divine king realm. At this moment, the woman sighed gently. She was unable to conceal her disappointment. She said, "The Flame Reverend really hasn't appeared. 3rd senior brother, looks like we've waited for all these years for nothing." The young man referred to as the 3rd senior brother was extremely handsome. He wore white clothes and held a fan in his hand. He gave off a scholarly bearing, just like a scholar. The young man slowly put down the chess piece in his hand when he heard that. He said, "There's no hurry. The Flame Reverend hasn't used up all the trump cards he set up on the ice pole plain. Isn't there still the Cold Wind sect? Let's continue waiting. We've been waiting here because we wanted to give it a try. If the Flame Reverend appears, it'll be good. But it doesn't matter if he doesn't." The young man continued. However, the Rain Abbess of the Delight Plane is far from simple. There seems to be 3 layers of seals on her body, and the feeling I get from these 3 layers of seals is that each layer is stronger than the last. When she removed the first seal, her cultivation immediately went from the 5th heavenly layer to the peak of the 6th heavenly layer, and she can challenge those at higher levels of cultivation. Looking at her battle prowess, even regular 7th heavenly layer grand primes won't be her opponent once she removes the first seal. The woman nodded in agreement. She said, "The Rain Abbess is indeed extraordinary. I've underestimated her in the past." The young man shook his head. "No, 5th junior sister, you've still underestimated the Rain Abbess. When she fought against Bingyin, I carefully observed her, but she almost discovered me in the end." The 5th junior sister's eyes immediately widened. She was surprised. "3rd senior brother, it's impossible for the Rain Abbess to discover you with your cultivation." The young man smiled bitterly and said slowly, "But that's the truth. I've even begun to suspect that the Rain Abbess has already discovered my existence." Chapter 3094. With the exposure of Shui Yunlan, the Tianhe clan immediately became the peak organization that attracted the most attention on the ice pole plane. All the important figures from the various peak organizations on the ice pole plane came to visit the Tianhe clan. There were many grand primes among them. Naturally, these people had come because of Shui Yunlan. Of course, just Shui Yunlan's identity alone was not enough for these peak organizations to muster so many people. Although Shui Yunlan came from the Ice Goddess Hall, she was only a mere attendant in the eyes of these grand primes. The true issue was that Shui Yunlan's appearance meant that the Snow Goddess of the Ice Goddess Hall was about to return to the ice pole plane. When the ancestors of these organizations visited the Tianhe clan, they all looked forward to meeting Shui Yunlan. They wanted to learn some information about the Snow Goddess from Shui Yunlan. There were even a few ancestors who openly declared their loyalty to the Snow Goddess, swearing that they were willing to go through hell for her. They were willing to provide all the assistance and resources they could for the Snow Goddess recovery. However, without any exception, all of their requests to meet Shui Yunlan were turned down by the Tianhe clan. Ever since Shui Yunlan returned to the Tianhe clan, she had been heavily protected by the clan. Even the great elders of the Tianhe clan did not have the right to see her. As for the organizations that had come to visit, they did not know whether they were friends or foes. So the Tianhe clan naturally dared not let them come into contact with Shui Yunlan. Only after several days did the Tianhe clan gradually return to its former peace. At this moment, Ancestor Lan, Hanzong, Shui Yunlan, and Jianqin gathered on one of the 3 ancestral peaks in the depths of the Tianhe clan, the Flying Snow Peak. "Shui Yunlan, may I ask when the Snow Goddess will return?" "As long as the Snow Goddess doesn't return, our ice pole plane will not be at peace." Ancestor Lan asked the question he cared about the most. The threat the Tianhe clan faced now did not just come from the Flame Reverend. At the same time, the Heaven sect from Planet Vastness was also eyeing them. However, once the ice pole plane had the Snow Goddess, the Flame Reverend would not be a threat at all. As for the Heaven sect, they probably would not have the courage to set foot on the ice pole plane by then. "I will only tell Jianqin any information regarding Her Highness," Shui Yunlan said. Clearly, she did not trust the Lan ancestor too much. Lan Zhu did not care about Shui Yunlan's attitude. She signaled to Jianqin with her eyes before leaving, purposefully avoiding him. Soon after, Hanzong chose to avoid the Ice Goddess or Snow Goddess. Their martial soul lineage had no interest in them. If it were not for Jianqin, the martial soul lineage would not have stepped into the mess on the ice pole plane. Very soon, only Shui Yunlan and Jianqin remained. "Shui Yunlan, can you tell me what's going on with my second sister now?" Jianqin immediately asked eagerly. Shui Yunlan was in no hurry to answer. Instead, she took out a special jade talisman and passed it to Jianqin. She said sternly, It's very easy for experts who surpass us in terms of cultivation to eavesdrop on our conversation. Refine this jade talisman quickly. Jianqin did not hesitate. He immediately accepted the jade talisman and refined it. As soon as he refined it, Shui Yunlan's voice directly entered Jianqin's head through the jade talisman. There's something very wrong with Her Highness right now. Not only has she failed to recover her memories and find her past self, but she's even fallen unconscious. Jianqin's heart immediately tightened when he heard that his second sister had fallen unconscious. He was extremely worried. After Her Highness fell unconscious, the coldness she gave off formed an independent domain. Even with my strength, I was unable to approach it, let alone observe what was wrong with Her Highness. However, I can vaguely sense that there seem to be two powers clashing within the domain of ice. With my many years of experience and insight, I can tell that Her Highness' condition is very abnormal. If it's not resolved quickly, perhaps it will only be detrimental to Her Highness. Deep worry appeared on Shui Yunlan's face. She said, "What happened to Her Majesty is naturally nothing difficult for the great ice goddess. Originally, I wanted to sneak into the Ice Goddess Hall and call for the Great Ice Goddess when Wu Han's organization in the Ice Goddess Hall was destroyed by the Empyrean Demon Lord, but I received no reply in the end. Jianqin, our Ice Goddess Hall has no friends in the Saints' world, nor do we have any allies. Aside from you, I can't find anyone else in the Saints' world that I can trust completely, so please help Her Highness." Shui Yunlan pleaded as helplessness filled her face. Jianqin could not help but think of what had happened back on the Tianyuan continent when he saw how weak Shui Yunlan was right now. At that time, Shui Yunlan was still an invincible expert in his eyes, an unbelievably terrifying existence. Even the world of forsaken saints that had almost destroyed the Tianyuan continent was as insignificant as an ant before Shui Yunlan. Jianqin struggled to connect the current helpless Shui Yunlan with the all-powerful expert from the lower world. "Don't worry, I will do everything I can to help my sister. However, you need to let me see her," Jianqin said sternly. His communication with Shui Yunlan was completely done through the special communication jade talisman. Their voices would appear in each other's heads out of nowhere. So on the surface, all they could see was Jianqin and Shui Yunlan looking at each other. They did not communicate at all. "I can take you there right now. Only I can take people to where Her Highness is hiding. However, before we go, we need to prepare some resources for Her Highness. If she wants to recover her strength, she'll need an unimaginable amount of resources," said Shui Yunlan. "Cultivation resources? That's simple." The light in Jianqin's eyes flickered. He ended his conversation with Shui Yunlan and went to find Ancestor Lan of the Tianhe clan as soon as possible. He directly asked the Tianhe clan for cultivation resources in the name of recovering the snow goddess strength. After all, the Tianhe clan was a peak organization that possessed 3 grand primes. Not only were they more powerful than the peak clans on the Cloud Plain, but they were also much wealthier than the peak clans on the Cloud Plain. How could Jianqin miss out on such a wealthy organization so easily? After all, he was an expert on par with chaotic primes now. Both his knowledge and insight could not be compared to the past. He understood just how much resources were needed to make the 9th heavenly layer Grand Prime Snow Goddess return to her peak strength. He was very wealthy right now. The Tianyuan clan that had obtained a portion of the wealth from several peak organizations on the Cloud Plain was also very wealthy. They possessed astronomical amounts of resources, but they were nowhere near enough to support a 9th heavenly layer Grand Prime. As soon as she heard why Jianqin wanted cultivation resources, Ancestor Lan immediately became stern. She said, "Our Tianhe clan is naturally responsible for helping the snow goddess return to her peak condition. However, our Tianhe clan alone is nowhere near enough to provide everything the snow goddess needs. As a result, we need to gather all the peak organizations on the ice pole plane and get all of them to work together. That's the only way to achieve this. Ancestor Lan did not dare to slack off at all. She immediately contacted the various organizations on the ice pole plain and began to collect resources for the snow goddess. Ancestor Lan's actions were naturally questioned by a few peak organizations. They all believed that the Tianhe clan was using this opportunity to amass wealth. However, the Snow Sect and Frigid Wind Sect did not question her at all. They all brought space rings filled with large amounts of resources to the Tianhe clan and personally handed them to Shui Yunlan. The actions of the Snow Sect and the Cold Wind Sect immediately caused all the doubtful voices to be silenced. Immediately, the various top factions in the Ice Pole province took out a portion of their resources and swiftly sent them to the Sky Crane clan with various thoughts. No organization was bold enough to remain uninvolved in this matter, nor was there any organization bold enough to just stand by and watch. This was because all the forces understood that if they did not express their attitude and stand when the snow goddess returned in the future, even if the snow goddess herself did not care, the other forces in the Ice Pole province would take the opportunity to create trouble and make them the target of public criticism. Of course, all of these resources were gathered in Shui Yunlan's hands. Jianqin and the snow goddess identities had not been made public, so Shui Yunlan was the snow goddess' only representative on the surface. In a short amount of time, the resources that Shui Yunlan had gathered reached an astronomical figure. It was impossible to calculate. Amongst them, the Snow Sect had contributed the most. They had practically taken out 70% of the resources in the sect's treasury. It could be seen that in order to provide more resources for the snow goddess, Ancestor Bingyan had really put in a lot of effort. After the Snow Sect came the Tianhe clan and Frigid Wind Sect. 3 days later, Shui Yunlan, who carried a tremendous amount of resources, finally prepared to take Jianqin to see the snow goddess. The two of them disguised themselves and left the Tianhe clan. Under the secret escort of the Frozen Cloud Ancestral Master, the Blue Team, and Hanzong, they entered the Supreme Divine Hall of the Ice Pole Plain, the Ice Goddess Hall. Is my second sister hiding in the Ice Goddess Hall? Jianqin studied the huge space that resembled a miniature world in the Ice Goddess Hall. He immediately became doubtful. Shui Yunlan shook her head. Her Highness isn't in the Ice Goddess Hall. Instead, she's hiding in a miniature world that the Ice Goddess personally created. That miniature world is extremely well hidden. The Ice Goddess once said that it's impossible to discover that miniature world unless you come across experts at the same level as her. And you don't have to choose here to enter that miniature world. As long as you're in any region near the Ice Pole Plain, you can enter through a door. Chapter 3095. Shui Yunlan began to form hand seals as her lips trembled rapidly. She produced a soundless sound as if she was chanting some sort of incantation. In addition, even the energy in her body was circulating in a special way. Opening the door seemed to be extremely complicated. It required hand seals, an incantation, and a certain method of circulating energy. It was as if the three of them had to be combined to form a key to the miniature world. At the very least, that was what Jianqin felt from Shui Yunlan's actions. A few seconds later, Shui Yunlan suddenly shone brightly. The light devoured Jianqin in a single instance. The light lasted for an extremely short moment, just a split second. However, when the light vanished, Shui Yunlan and Jianqin had vanished. The huge ice goddess hall immediately fell silent. However, this silence only lasted for a short 2 breaths of time before it was broken. In the empty void, there was suddenly a flash of light, and several figures had silently appeared here. 3 of the more familiar figures happened to be the Ice Cloud Ancestral Master of the Snow Sect, Ancestor Qi Feng of the Cold Wind Sect, and Ancestor Lan of the Tianhe clan. Aside from the 3 of them, there were 5 other experts who had not shown themselves in the Snow Sect. Without any exception, these people were all mid-Grand Primes. In other words, they were at the 4th heavenly layer or above. Every single one of them was the most powerful ancestor of a peak organization on the ice pole plane. It was exactly because of their existence that their organizations all ranked within the top 10 on the ice pole plane. As soon as the Snow Sect's ancestral master, Ice Cloud, appeared, she immediately extended her slender hand. The power of laws flowed through her hand, and she swiped at the space gently, wiping away all the traces and presence left behind. Clearly, she was covering Shui Yunlan up one last time. No one is allowed to investigate this place, or it'll be disrespectful to Her Majesty the Snow Goddess, as well as betraying the Ice Goddess Hull, said the Ice Cloud ancestral master coldly. She glanced past the ancestors of the 5 organizations, slowly. That's right. If anyone investigates this place, they'll be harboring ill intentions. We've come this time to protect Shui Yunlan's safe departure and prevent any accidents. The patriarchs of the 5 major forces stated their intentions, one after another. It was impossible to tell if they were sincere or not. However, what makes Old Man curious is why He Qianqi of the Tianhe clan was able to meet the Snow Goddess with Shui Yunlan. Ancestor Qi Feng's eyes flickered with a strange light. He stared at Ancestor Lan and asked, I wonder if Ancestor Lan can answer our questions. Who is the person who disguised himself as He Qianqi of your Tianhe clan? And that day outside the Snow Sect, Shui Yunlan originally planned on reuniting with her good friend who had been separated from her for many years. But she changed her mind at a crucial moment. Looking at it now, it was all because of He Qianqi. As for He Qianqi, he is not the He Qianqi of your Tianhe clan, but an outsider in disguise. Ancestor Lan, I wonder if Old Man is right? Ancestor Qi Feng spoke indifferently and peacefully, as if he was a benevolent old man who wanted to know the truth. However, there was extremely well-hidden killing intent in the depths of his heart. Back then, when the plan was about to succeed, he never thought Shui Yunlan would suddenly change her mind. Back then, Ancestor Qi Feng sensed that something was amiss. As it seemed now, everything that happened back then was completely caused by He Qianqi. Ancestor Lan glanced at Ancestor Qi Feng deeply and said with her beautiful voice, Ancestor Qi Feng, don't you think you're concerned about a little too many things? Shui Yunlan can be described as the only representative of the Snow Goddess right now. None of her actions are something we can speculate about. Ha ha ha, of course. Old Man isn't speculating about anything. I'm just rather curious. Ancestor Qi Feng chuckled. Shui Yunlan's identity was far too sensitive right now, so there were some topics that he could not discuss. Within the forbidden grounds of the Cold Wind sect, the 2 ancestors who were guarding this place were sitting cross-legged. Around their bodies, there was a layer of incomparably complicated runes that appeared. At this moment, the 2 of them were stern as they rapidly formed hand seals and used secret techniques. They seemed to be investigating something with the help of the formation. This process lasted for the time it took for an incense stick to burn. The formation runes floating around them gradually dimmed, and the 2 ancestors slowly opened their eyes. Their faces were filled with disappointment. Sai, the Snow Goddess hiding place really is well hidden. It can block all methods of investigation. IV lost all the imprints we left in the resources. That's to be expected. Fortunately, the imprints we left behind are extremely well hidden, and they'll disperse automatically after some time, so there's no need to worry about being exposed. With Jianqin and Shui Yunlan's departure, Hunzong did not remain on the ice pole plane either. He flew towards the mountain soul in outer space. At this moment, the Rain Abbess appeared before Hunzong silently. She was graceful, just like a beautiful woman of noble status. She did not conceal herself at all before Hunzong. She completely revealed herself to Hunzong. However, the Rain Abbess was currently staring in the direction of the ice pole plane. A rare sliver of sternness appeared on her face. She said, "The ice pole plane is filled with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. It's not as simple as it seems." Han Zhang's eyes narrowed. He asked, "Have you discovered something?" The Rain Abbess nodded. "There's another expert hidden on the ice pole plain. His strength is extraordinary. If he hadn't come to spy on me, I probably wouldn't have sensed his existence. However, even with that being the case, I failed to sense where he was hiding. The Luotian Plain was one of the 49 Great Plains of the Saints' World. Actually, the Luotian Plain had another name a very long time ago. It was only after a peak expert who could shake up the entire Saints' World, the Luotian Saint Lord, rose up that the plain changed its name to the Luotian Plain. The Luotian Plain received its name because of the Luotian Saint Lord. The Luotian clan that the Luotian Saint Lord belonged to was naturally the greatest organization on the Luotian Plain. However, now that the All-Heaven Saint Lord had broken through and successfully reached the domain of Grand Exalts, he had become an existence on par with the heavenly ways. As a result, the All-Heaven Saint Lord immediately leapt up and became one of the supreme organizations in the entire Saints' world. As a result, the Luotian Plains ranking skyrocketed, becoming an existence on par with the 7 sacred plains. However, the Luotian continent was extremely lively today. There were a large number of void battleships anchored in the starry sky of the Luotian continent. Mixed among them were huge palaces floating in the starry sky. They looked mighty and extraordinary. The spatial battleships and divine hulls all came from organizations across the 49 Great Plains and 81 Great Planets of the Saints' world. They had come from the depths of outer space with extremely great gifts to congratulate the Luotian Saint Lord. In order to show their respect to the Luotian clan, all the organizations docked their spatial battleships in outer space before visiting the Luotian clan alone. The Luotian clan was decorated as well, welcoming the guests warmly. The loud voice of the host constantly rang out, announcing the arrival of the various organizations. In the Saints' world, only peak organizations with grand primes who stood at the apex of a plane had the right to congratulate the Luotian Grand Exalt. Organizations below grand primes did not even have the right to congratulate them. The float empire of the Jade Fluid Plain and the Myriad Water Manor have arrived. 5 high-grade divine fruits and 12 high-grade divine pills. The heavenly sect of the vast expanse has arrived. 3 kilograms of high-grade divine materials. The Haojia of the Prosper Plain has arrived. 3 high-grade divine fruits and 10 high-grade divine pills. The Snow sect of the Ice Pole Plain, the Frigid Wind sect, and the Tinha clan have arrived. The people who came to congratulate the Grand Exalt of all heaven were led by a chaotic prime, great elder at the very least. There were even some organizations that sent grand primes personally. As the experts from all over the world entered the All-Heaven clan, the All-Heaven clan was already full of guests. The number of experts that had gathered there was enough to make people click their tongues. Esteemed guests of the Ziwei clan have arrived. At this time, the voice of the MC suddenly rose. When the words Ziwei clan came out, all the guests in the All-Heaven clan suddenly became quiet. They all looked at the gate with undisguised envy and awe. Chapter 3096. At the gate of the All-Heaven family, a woman in white was warmly welcomed by the servants of the All-Heaven family. She slowly walked in from the outside. The woman seemed to be in her 30s. She gave off an elegant bearing and a sense of maturity. To no surprise, she was a chaotic prime. Even in Archean clans, chaotic primes were figures like great elders. They possessed great authority. However, she was clearly not the only person from the Ziwei clan. Behind her were a few juniors from the Ziwei clan. They varied in strength, with the weakest only being a new deity, and the strongest only being a divine king. They all seemed slightly arrogant and condescending. Even though they had tried their best to conceal their arrogance the moment they entered the All-Heaven clan, their innate sense of superiority still leaked out unconsciously. At that moment, the arrival of the Ziwei clan immediately became the center of attention. After all, they were an Archean clan, a terrifying existence that all the organizations present could only look up to. At the same time, this was the first time that the representatives of many organizations had seen people from Archean clans. Esteemed guests from the Dao clan have arrived. Soon after the people from the Ziwei clan arrived, the host's voice rang out again. His voice was filled with undisguised excitement. Immediately, the All-Heaven clan was thrown into an uproar. Many people were shocked. The Dao clan was another Archean clan. 2 of the 8 Archean clans of the Saints' world had appeared all of a sudden. Sai, the All-Heaven clan, now has the Grand Exalt of All-Heaven. Their status is completely different from before, so it's only natural for Archean clans to come and congratulate them. A Grand Prime discussed softly among the guests. The Sacred Lord of All-Heaven was definitely an influential figure in the Saints' world. At the same time, he was a very experienced expert. He had remained at the 9th heavenly layer of Grand Prime for over 10 million years. But even with that being the case, All-Heaven clans were still inferior to Archean clans. This was because the Sacred Lord of All-Heaven did not possess a Grand Exalt's cultivation method, nor did he possess a Grand Exalt God artifact. Although he was also a 9th heavenly layer Grand Prime, he was far weaker than Archean clans that possessed complete legacies. However, now that All-Heaven Divine Lord had made a breakthrough, he had taken that crucial step and instantly became a supreme being above the ancient families. Afterwards, peak organizations that shook up the Saints' world arrived one after another to congratulate the Grand Exalt of All-Heaven. Organizations from the 49 Great Plains and 81 Great Planets of the Saints' world were present. Apart from that, even the people from the 8 great ancient families were present. Ha 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 ha! The 9 Brilliant Star Lord has graced us with your presence. Our All-Heaven clan has failed to welcome you. We have failed to welcome you. At this moment, an ancient voice came from the All-Heaven clan. The voice echoed through the entire clan and the entire All-Heaven continent. In an instant, the bustling All-Heaven clan became quiet again. Even the disciples of the 8 ancient clans, sitting at the head of the table, had a solemn look on their faces. What shocked them was not the warm welcome from a Grand Prime of an All-Heaven clan, but the visitor this time, the 9 Brilliant Star Lord. The 9 Brilliance Star Lord was a great figure. Not only was he a 9th heavenly layer Grand Prime, but he was also the disciple of the Blood Tier Grand Exalt. His status was so great that he was so powerful that he even surpassed the All-Heaven Divine Lord before his breakthrough. He was definitely a great figure who could cause a storm in the entire Saints' world with a wave of his hand. A white-robed old man walked out from the depths of the All-Heaven clan. He was a Grand Prime. He left the All-Heaven clan with a single step and personally went to receive the 9 Brilliant Star Lord. Even when the 8 ancient clans visited, the Grand Prime of the All-Heaven clan had not personally received them. This was more than enough to demonstrate how important the 9 Brilliant Star Lord was. In the sky above the All-Heaven clan, the 9 Brilliant Star Lord bathed in a layer of resplendent starlight. The way of the stars revolved around him, making it seem like he had become a boundless starry sky. No one could see his true appearance. A Grand Prime of the All-Heaven clan accompanied the 9 Brilliant Star Lord with a smile on his face. He could not hide the respect on his face. He had clearly lowered himself slightly as he politely invited the 9 Brilliant Star Lord to the depths of the All-Heaven clan. Greetings to the 9 Brilliant Star Lord. When the 9 Brilliant Star Lord passed through the sky above the All-Heaven clan, all the guests gathered there stood up and bowed towards the 9 Brilliant Star Lord respectfully. Even the disciples of ancient clans were no exception. Very soon, the 9 Brilliant Star Lord vanished with the Grand Prime of the All-Heaven clan. After they left, the guests immediately burst into an uproar. The representatives of many organizations stared in the direction where the 9 Brilliant Star Lord had vanished as they became extremely excited. To them, the 9 Brilliant Star Lord was a legendary figure. Let alone them, Even the ancestors of their organizations would not necessarily have the right to see him. Now, they were fortunate enough to see the 9 Brilliant Star Lord in the All-Heaven clan. Even though they did not see his true appearance, it was still an extremely exciting matter to them. It was something worth bragging about for the rest of their lives. I never thought that even a great figure like the 9 Brilliant Star Lord would come. To be able to see the disciple of a legendary Grand Exalt. This trip has been worth it. This trip has been worth it. Just the thought of being a Grand Exalt's disciple makes me envious. Many of the guests in the All-Heaven clan were filled with yearning. At this moment, the MC's clear voice rang out again. The Heavenly Palace of Bishing, 99999. However, this time the MC's voice was not as smooth as before. It suddenly became stuck, as if someone had grabbed him by the throat. He was unable to complete a sentence, no matter what. The people from the Heavenly Palace of Bishing have come as well. But what's wrong with the MC? 9 what? The MC of the Ministry of Rites has actually made a mistake like this under such a grand occasion. That's a huge mistake. What's wrong with the MC of the Ministry of Rites? Why is he stuttering? Today is an unprecedented grand occasion for our All-Heaven clan. The MC of the ceremony has really disgraced our All-Heaven clan. Immediately investigate who the MC of the Ministry of Rites is. He actually made a mistake like this during such a grand ceremony. It's unforgivable. The MC's sudden stuttering immediately made all the guests and people from the All-Heaven clan frown. Chapter 3097. As soon as the words Ninth Highness came out, the noisy All-Heaven family once again fell into silence. However, this time, everyone's expression was completely different from before. All the guests were stunned. Many of them even picked their ears, wondering if they had heard wrong. It was not just the guests. Even some of the upper echelon of the All-Heaven clan became rather confused. They were stunned. There was only one way to obtain the title of Majesty in the Heavenly Palace of Bishing, and that was to become the Aneta Grand Exalt's disciple. However, everyone knew that the Heavenly Palace of Bishing only had 8 Majesties. Yet the host of the All-Heaven clan had actually called out the 9th Majesty of the Heavenly Palace of Bishing. The 9th Majesty? Since when did the Heavenly Palace of Bishing have a 9th Majesty? For a moment, all the guests in the All-Heaven clan were stunned. In the depths of the All-Heaven clan, the face of the Grand Prime who had personally gone to receive the 9 Brilliant Star Lord stiffened as well. Disbelief filled his old eyes. The host has probably seen the people from the Heavenly Palace of Bishing arrive and called out the wrong name in a moment of excitement. The person from the Heavenly Palace of Bishing should be the 8th Majesty by Rome. The host has actually mistaken the 8th Majesty for the 9th Majesty. That's a heinous crime. A few great elders from Archean clans returned to their senses. They remained very composed. Clearly, they did not feel as much reverence towards the 8th Majesty as they did towards the 9 Brilliant Star Lord. This was because, in their eyes, the Heavenly Palace of Bishing without the Aneta Grand Exalt was only on par with Archean clans at most. At the same time, the 8th Majesty's cultivation was on par with them. As a result, the great elders from Archean clans naturally did not need to feel as much reverence towards the 8th Majesty as they did the 9 Brilliant Star Lord. Not only was the 9 Brilliant Star Lord a supreme expert himself, but more importantly, his master was still alive and well. As a result, the 9 Brilliant Star Lord was naturally superior to the Heavenly Palace of Bishing in the eyes of the great elders of Archean clans. At the gate of the All-Heaven clan, 3 figures walked in leisurely, followed by several maids of the All-Heaven clan respectfully. Among the 3 people, there was a young man and a young woman who were walking at the front. They had an intimate relationship and looked like Taoist companions. The young man was Ming Dong, and the peerlessly beautiful woman by Ming Dong's side was the princess of the 1000 Lotus Dynasty, Yun Xiaoyan. However, the person who truly received the attention of the crowd was the middle-aged man who silently followed behind this group of young men and women. The middle-aged man wore golden armor and shone with dazzling light. He seemed like a miniature sun, and the presence he gave off vaguely indicated that he was a ninth heavenly layer chaotic prime. All the people from large organizations were familiar with the golden armor because it was the standard armor of the divine generals of the heavenly palace of Bishing. Just the armor alone was enough to explain the person's identity. This old man is Grand Elder Hao Jia Mu Fuxing. Greetings to Senior Ming Xie. As soon as the divine general of the heavenly palace of Bishing arrived, a great elder of Hao Jia's clan immediately went up to greet him with a few juniors of Hao Jia. They were extremely polite. At this moment, there was a flash, and another grand prime of the All-Heaven clan personally appeared. He clasped his fist towards the divine general of the heavenly palace of Bishing, first before glancing at Ming Dong and Yun Xiaoyan suspiciously. He asked Ming Xie, "May I ask where the 8th Majesty is?" The Grand Prime from the All-Heaven clan naturally did not recognize Ming Dong and Yun Xiaoyan. As for the honorific of the 9th Majesty, he was just like the other Archean clans. He believed that the honorific had mispronounced the 8th Majesty as the 9th Majesty due to his emotions. Ming Xie frowned as he stood behind Ming Dong and Yun Xiaoyan. He said sternly, "Your All-Heaven clan sure doesn't know any etiquette. The 9th Majesty of our heavenly palace of Bishing has personally come, yet you're ignoring him. Is this how your All-Heaven clan treats its guests?" "What? It's really the 9th Majesty?" The Grand Prime of the All-Heaven clan who stood before Ming Xie was immediately shocked. He could not help but look at Ming Dong and Yun Xiaoyan as his heart churned. Impossible. The heavenly palace of Bishing only has 8 majesties. How can there be a 9th majesty? The people from the Archean clans gathered at the front struggled to remain composed as well. They all stood up from their seats as they were shocked as well. Ninth Highness. What is going on? The Hao family's grand elder immediately became dumbstruck. The shock in his heart was so intense that it could no longer be described with words. However, he seemed to realize something soon afterwards. He immediately ravished with joy as his entire body trembled in excitement. At this moment, there was an uproar in the All-Heaven clan. The appearance of the 9th Highness had shocked everyone who had gathered there, causing a storm to rise in everyone's hearts. All the experts present knew exactly what the sudden appearance of a majesty in the heavenly palace of Bishing meant. "Your master is actually still alive." Suddenly, an old voice rang out in Ming Dong's head. With that, the space where Ming Dong was immediately blurred. In an instant, the space was blocked off, making it impossible for anyone to see what was happening inside. A white-robed old man appeared silently in the blurry space. He seemed very old, and his face was filled with wrinkles. He seemed like an old man who was about to enter the grave. He was the Grand Exalt of All-Heaven. At that moment, the Grand Exalt of All-Heaven did not give off a particularly terrifying presence. He seemed just like an ordinary old man. However, with his appearance, the great Tao laws of this world seemed to be silently changing. It was as if his mere appearance was enough to disrupt the order of the world, allowing him to create his own laws as he pleased. Junior Ming Dong greets Senior All-Heaven. Ming Dong pulled Yun Xiaoyan along as they bowed together. "Strange. Old man hasn't sensed your master's existence," said the Grand Exalt of All-Heaven. "Master went to the chaotic space many years ago. He should return very soon," said Ming Dong. "The chaotic space." The Grand Exalt of All-Heaven murmured as his gaze deepened. Afterwards, he slowly vanished. With the Grand Exalt of All-Heaven's departure, the blocked space cleared up once again. However, none of the guests in the All-Heaven clan sensed anything amiss. It was as if they did not know that the space had just been blocked off. To all of them, Ming Dong and the others had always been there. They had never vanished. Only the Grand Prime of the All-Heaven clan, who was closest to Ming Dong, was surprised. He stared at Ming Dong and asked, "9th Majesty, the ancestor just came?" Ming-Dong nodded slowly. Immediately, the Grand Prime of the All-Heaven clan became filled with respect. The ninth majesty of the heavenly palace of Bishing's visit to the All-Heaven clan had undoubtedly announced his existence to the entire Saints world. Immediately, the news regarding the ninth majesty of the heavenly palace of Bishing spread through the All-Heaven clans as quickly as possible, causing a great uproar in the Saints world. Just the ninth majesty's name was naturally not enough to cause such a great disturbance in the Saints world. The true reason was that everyone had learnt an extremely shocking truth behind the matter. Chapter 3098. The Inata Grand Exalt was still alive. The news swept across the 49 Great Plains and 81 Great Planets of the Saints world at an extremely shocking speed. Even some sects and clans that were not based on any great plane or planet, but were instead hidden in outer space, learned about this shocking and inspiring news as soon as possible. This was because Ming-Dong's identity as His Highness Ninth Prince was made public within the All-Heaven family. Now that the All-Heaven clan had gathered many organizations from across the entire Saints world, the news spread so quickly. Immediately, the entire Saints world was shaken. Of course, the news of the Inata Grand Exalt's return only spread among the upper echelons of society. Only a few peak organizations with Grand Primes possessed the right to know about this secret. At the very least, some organizations below Grand Prime did not possess the right to know about this in the short term. After Ming-Dong's identity as the Ninth Majesty was exposed, he was naturally received warmly by the All-Heaven clan. A Grand Prime had specially come to receive him. He was treated so well that all the Archean clans that had come to congratulate him felt envious. In addition to envy, there was also a strong sense of jealousy. This was because they could tell that Ming-Dong actually enjoyed the same treatment as a 9 brilliant Star Lord in the All-Heaven clan as an early Infinite Prime. However, they also understood that all of this was to be expected. Although there was a huge gap in their cultivation, it could be said that the gap between them was like the gap between heaven and earth. However, if one disregarded cultivation and only considered status, the Ninth Majesty of the Heavenly Palace of Bishing was on par with the 9 brilliant Star Lord. In fact, it was even slightly higher. It was all because the Heavenly Palace of Bishing possessed the Inata Grand Exalt. I never thought that the Inata Grand Exalt would still be alive. Now that Inata has returned, who can contend with the Heavenly Palace of Bishing in the current Saints world? Among the 7 Grand Exalts back then, the War God of the God Clan was the undisputed strongest, while the Space-Time Elder and Inata Grand Exalt were ranked 2nd and 3rd. However, there has always been a dispute over who ranked 2nd and 3rd. So many people put the Space-Time Elder and the Inata Grand Exalt on the same ranking. Now, the new War God of the Warring Gods has yet to mature. The only person who can contend with the Inata Grand Exalt, the Space-Time Elder, is already dead. Who can still be the Inata Grand Exalt's opponent in the current Saints world? The Inata Grand Exalt has comprehended the laws of creation, destruction, and fire to the extreme. Sigh. Think about how so many peak experts of our Saints world spend their entire lives and countless fortuitous encounters to comprehend a single way to the limit. Yet, the Inata Grand Exalt has actually grasped 3. Even the Grand Venerate of the All-Heaven clan, who is currently in the limelight, has only comprehended one great Tao to the extreme. Heavenly Saint Exalt Saint Monarchian was heard, Heavenly Monarch Grand Prime. The 8 Saintses were Saint clans. At the same time, many meteors of various sizes hovered in an unknown region of the Saints world. A pale-faced young man in azure robes sat within one of the larger meteors. The young man's eyes were closed, and his face was completely pale. He did not give off any presence at all, nor did he give off any pulses of life. He seemed like an icy cold corpse. Large patches of dried blood stains could be seen on his green robes. The young man was a renowned peak expert of the Saints world, the heaven-splitting ancestor. The heaven-splitting ancestor concealed all of his presence. He seemed to have entered a state of suspended animation. hiding himself as best as he could. Suddenly, the heaven-splitting ancestor snapped open his eyes and cursed hatefully, "You really just won't go away." Before he had even finished speaking, the heaven-splitting ancestor suddenly vanished from the meteor. Boom! Almost as soon as he vanished, a great explosion occurred in space. It was like the destruction of the world. The scene was extremely shocking. The space within a radius of hundreds of millions of kilometers was reduced to darkness in an instant. Countless asteroids and even many stars in space exploded, turning into dust. And in this shattered void, there was a monstrous energy condensing. Then a huge palm condensed with the power of the great path of heaven and earth and struck towards the void. When the hand fell, the laws of the world seemed to be disrupted. New laws seemed to be born, causing the original laws in the region to be rewritten. New laws, new orders, and new ways appeared. This palm seemed to contain the supreme might of the heavenly Tao's judgment. The heaven-splitting ancestor's figure appeared. His face was ugly as he tossed out a shield with a wave of his hand. Boom! The energy palm slammed into the shield, and with a deafening boom, the shield, a high-quality god artifact, instantly exploded into countless fragments that flew in all directions. The heaven-splitting ancestor used this opportunity to retreat. He moved with unbelievable speed, crossing millions of kilometers in a single flash. "Isin, you've already hunted me down for several hundred years. You crazy woman, are you done yet?" The heaven-splitting ancestor cursed out in anger. He had truly lost his mind. During the years he had been hunted down, he had fled across the entire Saints' world. Now, all the peak experts in the Saints' world knew about the glorious matter of the heaven-splitting ancestor being hunted down. This was an extremely humiliating matter for any ninth heavenly layer Grand Prime. Although the heaven-splitting ancestor cursed out, he did not slow down at all. He moved with indescribable speed, crossing millions of kilometers in a single instant. Countless stars turned into streaks of light as they shot off into the distance. Although experts at their level of cultivation could not descend anywhere with a single thought like sovereigns of the world, they were definitely not slow. Hand over Senior Gu Dao's soul fragment. The first majesty of the heavenly palace of Bishing pursued closely from behind. Compared to the heaven-splitting ancestor's horrible condition, Isin was much more composed. Her white clothes were spotless, and her bearing was extraordinary. She was like a goddess from the heavens, powerful and undefeatable. How many times have I said it? I don't have the grand exalt of ancient paths soul fragment. You crazy woman, what do I have to do for you to believe me? Up ahead, the heaven-splitting ancestor fled in a horrible shape as he gritted his teeth resentfully. Clearly he was quite injured. His presence seemed rather chaotic right now. Isin said nothing more. She pursued at full speed. Go on, go on. I'd like to see just how long you can keep up. Isin, although I can't beat you, we're both at the 9th heavenly layer after all. If I want to flee, you won't be able to catch up to me. The heaven-splitting ancestor behaved like he was about to shatter. He had already lost all his dignity, so there was no reason for him to hold back. However, at this moment, the fleeing heaven-splitting ancestor suddenly froze. Even his face froze at that moment. He seemed to have suddenly learnt something extremely terrifying. His eyes immediately narrowed as coldness rose up from the bottom of his heart uncontrollably. The heaven-splitting ancestor stopped fleeing. His face was as ugly as it could be. Afterwards, he slowly turned around and looked at Isin, who was rapidly approaching him. His gaze was extremely shocking, and it was filled with fury and deep shame. The Anita Grand Exalt is still alive? The heaven-splitting ancestor basically asked with a darkened face. Isin gave up on the idea of attacking the heaven-splitting ancestor when she heard that. She hovered in the sea of stars as her gaze was cold and emotionless. She said very few words, that's right. The heaven-splitting ancestor's face immediately darkened when he received an affirmative answer. He opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something, but he felt like something was stuck in his throat, preventing him from saying anything. The hatred in his heart was like a scorching fire. He was tempted to incinerate the entire sky and destroy the entire world. As a matter of fact, under the accumulation of excessive anger and hatred, he directly lost his composure. He could not help but tremble violently as his facial features became extremely distorted. He roared inside, "The Inata Grand Exalt is still alive. Why didn't you say so earlier? If you had told me earlier that the Inata Grand Exalt was still alive, would I have had to flee the Saints' World for 100 years in shame? If I had known that the Inata Grand Exalt was still alive, I would have given you Gu Dao's soul fragment long ago." The heaven-splitting ancestor did not voice his thoughts. He remained silent for quite a while before finally squeezing out a sentence. "Why? Are you purposefully toying with me?" That short sentence seemed to express all the grievances and humiliation the heaven-splitting ancestor felt. Originally, he thought that the first majesty of the heavenly palace of Bishing had only guessed that he possessed Gu Dao's soul fragment through some clues, which was why he denied it as much as he could. However, only now did he realize that the Inata Grand Exalt had already learned that he possessed Gu Dao's soul fragment long ago. What was laughable was that he had actually fled for several hundred years like a clown right under the nose of a Grand Exalt. As a result, the heaven-splitting ancestor felt extremely frustrated. Grand Exalts were equivalent to the laws of the world. They could descend on any corner of the Saints' world with a single thought. In the eyes of Grand Exalts, no matter how vast the Saints' world was, distance was nothing. Before a Grand Exalt, no matter how fast you fled, it was meaningless. As a result, the heaven-splitting ancestor's feelings, after fleeing for several hundred years, after learning that the Inata Grand Exalt was still alive, was unimaginable. Hand over Senior Gu Dao's soul fragment. Cyan continued. Her voice was still cold. The heaven-splitting ancestor stared at Exin resentfully as he ground his teeth. This time he said nothing. With a wave of his hand, he tossed out an item before turning around and leaving.